conquering America. Starting as a boxing champion, this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51, KO to the end. Hey, Yankees, get out of here, you are losers. When the Cuban boxing team passed by, a dark and thin boxer screamed at Link. What are they shouting? Jones Foles wondered. Fuck. They want to call us Yankees. Don't fuck him? Morales puffed up the cut on his body and said angrily. The translator looked at the coach, who knew the team leader, with embarrassment, wondering if he should translate or not. The United States and Cuba are neighbors and enemies. The United States is a Gulf country and Cuba is a red country. The United States has imposed trade blockades, embargoes, and economic sanctions on Cuba since the 1960s, creating the Bay of Pigs landing incident. Cuba was close to exporting, and in 1962, it created the Cuban Missile Crisis, which almost ignited the fuse of World War III. In 1980, 150,000 traffickers, psychopaths, labor criminals, drug addicts, prostitutes, and thieves were divided step by step into decades. So far, the United States has not abolished its fortress against Cuba. Cuba's enemies still regard the United States as the #1 enemy. In boxing, two people box their mortal enemies. When they meet in international competitions, Cuban boxers will beat American boxers. Since the 1960s, the US team has only won against Cuba in the Olympics. The first time was in the 1976 Olympics, when boxing champion Sugar Ray Leonard defeated his Cuban opponent to win the gold medal. The second time was in the 1996 Atlanta Olympics, when Mayweather defeated his Cuban opponent to win the gold medal. Both of these Olympics were held in the United States. If they were held abroad, it would be uncertain who would win. Shut up, Catro, they are guests. Cuban coach Felix Savin scolded and pulled the black boy over to apologize to the US team. Link smiled lightly, walked over directly, and greeted in Spanish. Hello, Mr. Savin. My name is Link Baker. I have seen your game videos. Your fighting style on the court is very tenacious, worthy of learning for us younger generations. Are you Link Baker? Felix Savin was a little surprised when he saw him, as if he knew him. At this time, a Cuban came over and introduced Link to Savin, saying that he was the first super middleweight of the American team and had just KO'd the second place of the Mexican team, Martin, and advanced to the second round. KO. Is his opponent a rookie? Several Cuban fans exclaimed loudly. Savin glared at several disciples, stretched out his hand to Link and shook it, and smiled. Mr. Link Baker, I know you. In this year's American Golden Glove Studio, you won 17 games and KO'd your opponents 17 times. 17 KO opponents? Amateur competition? Several Cuban players looked at Link in surprise. If he successfully KO'd the second place of Mexico, it might be because the opponent's level was not high. But in the American amateur competition, KO'd his opponents 17 times, which shows that this guy is really powerful. Lauren Erigan also looked at Link solemnly and looked at Link's body features carefully with the eyes of looking at an enemy. Link smiled indifferently, shook Savin's hand and said, I don't deserve it. It's just a trick to attract attention. It doesn't deserve your praise. The real honor is for people like you. 3 championships not only prove your strength, but also honor for the country. All our athletes should learn from you. This sentence is not flattery, but the other part is spirit is indeed worthy of learning for all athletes. At the 1992 Barcelona Olympics in Spain, after Savin participated in the heavyweight gold medal, Don King, a famous American boxing promoter, offered $5 million to sign and promote him, and invited him to participate in professional competitions in the United States. Due to the reasons of brain drain and lack of security, the Cuban government has prohibited boxers from becoming professional players since 1962, and going abroad to compete is the opposite of escaping. In addition, according to the rules of the competition, professional boxers cannot represent countries or regions. Savin gave up 5 million boxers and continued to be a boxer. He won 3 gold medals in the Olympics, and he had never played a professional game before. He is a famous heavyweight boxer. If he had been more flexible, he could have easily made hundreds of millions by crossing the 358-kilometer Florida Strait and going to the United States to develop, but he didn't. If this happened to Link, he was not sure that he could not do it, so he admired such a true patriot. Haha. Mr. Link Baker, you are too kind. I'm old, and the future of boxing belongs to you young people. Savin laughed and patted Link's arm. Link also understood the admiration in his eyes, but he didn't understand why an American looked at him in this way, and he felt a little uncomfortable. After Link and his companions left, Seon immediately pulled his disciple Lorenzo Aragon to his side, looked at Link's back, and said with a serious expression, "Aragon, remember him, he is definitely the one on your way to win the Olympic gold medal." Aragon looked at Link and nodded seriously. "I understand. This Link Baker is not simple. He may not be as experienced as you in competitions, but in terms of mentality and strength, he is definitely not much worse than you. From now on, you should pay attention to him, watch more of his games, and know what he is good at and what he is not good at." After saying this, Seon was still worried, so he asked his disciples to come to the cameraman on the scene and asked them to copy Link's game video. He wanted to watch Link's game first. At the same time, Seon nodded with some regret. Not long ago, his friend talked to him about the American Golden Gloves competition. When talking about Link Baker's record of 17 KOs in 17 fights, he just admired the young man's strength and didn't take it too seriously. After all, boxing is not weightlifting. Only brute force is useless. Technology and speed are the key to victory. But after seeing Link Baker in person, he had to start over. This guy was not the black hunk or the reddish-brown Mexican he had imagined, but a gentle and handsome white man with good manners, mild temper and steady personality. People with light skin have good brains, and with his terrifying strength and boxing skills, he should never be underestimated. Fortunately, this is Cuba. There are still a few rounds to go, so there is plenty of time to get to know Link, the opponent. At the same time, he is ready to use some tricks to delay the time of Link's match with Aragon, so that they can meet at the end. After Aragon fully understands Link's strength before the match, the chances of winning will be greater. Chapter 50 to qualifying round 2. Come on Link. Come on, Canadians. The second round of the 18-9 match continued in the afternoon. In this round, Link faced Dennis Earth, the top Canadian super middleweight. He was 24 years old, 184 centimeters tall, with an arm length of 188 centimeters. He had 61 wins and 6 losses in 67 amateur matches. He was an amateur elite with superb skills, somewhat equivalent to Andrej. But his opponent's physical strength and ability to withstand blows were better than Andrej, and he was also more difficult to deal with. It was very difficult to KO his opponent in 4 rounds. Boxing. Time was limited. After the match started, Link seized the time and threw more than 100 punches in a row in the first round, including more than 20 straight punches weighing more than 1,000 pounds, before he broke through his opponent's defense and hit the opponent in the face with a jab. He also had to sigh that the difficulty of the Olympic series was indeed much higher than that of the Golden Gloves. If it was in the Golden Gloves warehouse, his 20 heavy punches would be barely supported by Andre and Morales, and no one else could take them. Link, now you have a good chance of winning, and you can win by points. Why don't you give up KO? Coach had advised. Andre Berto and others saw that he was sweating all over, and also advised him not to be too obsessed with KO. That thing is useless except for data, and it is even more useless in the professional boxing world. It doesn't matter, I can hold on. Link assumed that it was a goal he set for himself, and he must achieve it, even if he was exhausted. A man can be more ruthless to others, only if he is ruthless. If he is not ruthless, how can he be a boxing champion? Bang bang bang. At the beginning of the second round, Link continued to attack his opponent with heavy punches. 1 punch, 2 punches, 3 punches, 10 punches, and 20 punches. He turned his attack into a storm, airtight, and made his opponent breathless. With 10 seconds left in the second round, Link finally hit his opponent's forehead with another straight punch. The Canadian was beaten back a step, and the door was wide open. Link took the opportunity, and then hit the opponent's face with 2 extremely fast jabs. Bang. The 2 punches were solid. Dennis straightened his head, took 2 steps back, and fell on the ring. Wow. The match went on for the first time after 2 rounds. Come on, Link. Keep fighting. Morales and Anderzed shouted loudly in the audience, waving their fists non-stop. Link panted and waved his fists, but he didn't dare to relax. In the 2 rounds at the most extreme level of the match, he had only knocked down once so far. If he wanted to completely KO his opponent and kill the match, he would probably need to continue to attack and attack hard, but the continuous attack would consume a lot of energy. In addition, this was the second match of the day. The remaining physical strength was almost gone. Link shook his head and thought that he was really looking for trouble. Eragon, how do you think Link fought? Seon asked, looking at the ring. Eragon smiled and nodded slightly, saying, however, it was a little more powerful than I thought, but it was not difficult to deal with. Seon nodded. This Link Baker was not only a heavy gunner, but also had good boxing skills. He was worthy of winning the Golden Gloves. But judging from the strength he has shown so far, he is a little worse than Aragorn. The 3rd round begins. Link continues to attack his opponent with heavy punches. In the first 2 rounds, Link's attack targets are more specific this time, attacking the opponent's nose and chin. These 2 places are the weakest stages of the human body. Once hit, they will cause bleeding wounds to the opponent, which is twice the result with half the effort. Bang, bang, bang. Link gritted his teeth and punched his opponent's arms, ribs, and shoulders like raindrops. After more than 60 consecutive attacks, he finally broke through the opponent's nose defense and hit the opponent's ridge with a jab. The opponent's eyes were tearful and his vision was blurred. The focus of defense was also on the bridge of the nose. Good opportunity. While the opponent's defense collapsed, Link hit the opponent's yang points on the left and right sides of his forehead with 2 consecutive swinging punches, making the opponent stagger. Link took the opportunity to add a straight punch. Bang. With 15 seconds left in the 3rd round, the opponent Dennis finally fell to the ground again. Link was also exhausted, and his whole body was hot, and his arms were twitching and shaking. 10, 9, 8, 7. Unfortunately, the opponent got up from the ground just after the referee called out the 4 counts. Link sighed softly, what a tough guy. The 4th round was also the last round of the game. After the game started, Link held his breath and continued to attack the opponent's tortoise shell defense with his fists. Bang, bang, bang. Link didn't intend to save his physical strength and continued to attack the opponent's defense with heavy punches. After attacking more than 80 punches in a row, he almost exhausted all his strength and finally knocked down his opponent again. Bang. The opponent Dennis was hit in the side of the face. His body tilted 2 steps to the left and fell to the ground with a bang. Can you still get up? Link supported his knees with his fists, gasping for breath, and was too tired to straighten his back. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. When the referee called for the 6th count, the opponent grabbed the ropes and stood up again, winning cheers from the audience. Awesome. Link exclaimed. He had to admit that he was able to become the #1 player in various countries because he was very tenacious in terms of physical strength, skills, and willpower. No matter how many times he was knocked down in the game, as long as he could stand up, he would continue to fight. This also caused the difficulty of KOing his opponent to increase exponentially. The game continued, and the minimum time was 69 seconds. Link did not dare to delay for a second. He used the last bit of strength he had left to do his best to release the opponent beside him. With only 32 seconds left in the game, he finally knocked down his opponent again. Bang. The opponent fell down. Link also leaned against the ropes and could hardly straighten his back. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. When the referee was about to count to 10, the opponent miraculously stood up again. The audience applauded. Link hooked his mouth. He was worthy of being the #1 player in Canada. He was indeed ahead in strength. But would he give up the ultimate goal of KOing his opponent? Impossible. Even at the limit of 1 second, he tried hard and tried again to achieve his goal. The match continued. Link roared, raised his numb and swollen arms, and attacked his opponent at once. Punching hard, attacking with a jab. 1 punch, 2 punches, 3 punches 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds. Link used up the last bit of his strength. Bang. His opponent was knocked to the ground again. Link habitually threw 2 more punches and only retracted his numb arms after hitting the air force, looking at his opponent lying on the ground. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 didn't get up. Link panted and raised his fist. Although it was very tiring and difficult, he won. Link, you won. Link, you knocked out another man. You are so perverted. Morales and others jumped up from their seats, stood under the boxing ring, slapped the boxing ring hard, and shouted at him. Link smiled lightly, but he didn't dare to be careless. He almost lost in the second round. How would he play in the next few rounds? KOing all opponents to enter the Olympics. This goal is indeed a bit of a trap. I declare that the intimidator of this game is Link Baker of the American team. In the boxing ring, the referee raised Link's arm high. Interesting, but the championship is still mine. Aragon said lightly. Savin glanced at his disciple and smiled. You are also very Italian. This Link is good at attacking and has a heavy fist. It's not easy to deal with. You should watch a few more of his games and understand his style. It will be easier to meet him in the future. Aragon nodded. I will. Chapter 53 Weird topic. While the super middleweight competition was going on, the competitions in other weight classes were going on at the same time. The US team performed poorly in the pre-qualification. Except for Link, Deontay Wilder in the heavyweight class, Joe Smith in the light heavyweight class, and the boxers from the women's boxing team who advanced. All other boxers were stopped in the 3rd round. In the heavyweight competition, a more interesting scene was in the 2nd round, when Deontay Wilder encountered Andy Ruiz Jr. of the Mexican team. In fact, they were both Americans, and Andy Ruiz Jr. only represented the Mexican team in the competition. When the competition was drawn, they happened to be drawn together, which also allowed the Cubans to witness a fight between Americans. At that time, Link was also watching the fight from the stage. No matter who hit whom between Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz Jr., the Cubans would burst into a huge cheer, which was quite enthusiastic. In the end, Deontay Wilder defeated Andy Ruiz Jr., who had just been promoted to the heavyweight class, with a score of 27-18 and successfully entered the 3rd round. Link Cuba may be sorting out the draw items. You have to be careful. Team leader Ed frowned and said. Link nodded, not surprised by this. Although the Olympics is the largest sporting event in human history, it is mixed with too many political factors, so there will never be a lack of political compatibility in the competition. Especially in boxing, since the results of the game are scored by 5 referees on the scene, and the 5 referees are arranged by the organizers. They can choose to give or not give points according to the situation during the game. For example, in the 1988 Seoul Olympics, Roy Jones Jr. beat the Korean boxer Park Hee-hang without any chance to fight back, but in the end Roy Jones Jr. only won the silver medal, which became one of the famous scandals in the history of the Olympics. Such things are not uncommon in his later Olympics. The Olympic boxing event has also become the most valuable, but also the most unfair one among all amateur boxing competitions. However, Link is not worried about this. The goal is to KO all opponents and make the scoring referees collectively unemployed. The match entered the 3rd round of 9-5, and Link encountered the Cuban boxer Oscar Iglesias, 27 years old, black, 188 centimeters tall, arm length 193 centimeters, amateur competition record 102 fights, 88 wins, 12 losses, 2 draws boxer. Participated in 3 world championships and 1 Olympic games. The best result was entering the quarterfinals in the Olympics and won a silver medal in the world championships. He is also the only one in this American qualifier who defeated his opponent in the 1st round and entered the next exciting 2nd place. A very strong opponent. Compared with Andre Berto, his skills are more outstanding and comprehensive, with almost no flaws in both offense and defense, and his speed is more flexible. He often throws a punch and quickly withdraws, giving his opponent the opportunity to attack on the battlefield, and he is slippery. He is also more difficult to deal with than the previous opponent Dennis. This opponent is very powerful. Are you sure you still want to insist on KO? Ed said with a wrinkled forehead. Link glanced at him, a little speechless. When they first met, Ed gave people the impression that he was in his early 40s. After only 2 games, Ed seemed to be more than 10 years older, with deeper wrinkles and grey stubble on his face. It reminded him of West's homework across the street. The last time he played the Golden Gloves competition, West was also several years older. Why did Goo give himself such a headache? Link felt that it was not his fault, but that they thought too much. Link, I advise you to give up. Andre Berto shook his head and reported, in the last game against Dennis from Canada, I almost failed to KO. This time I met someone who is more powerful and more agile than Dennis. How can you KO him? Link, I also think it's difficult and unrealistic. Jones Fuller said. Link looked at his opponent Ross in his continuous belt. The opponent was seen dodging flexibly in the ring and moving very quickly. Let alone KOing him, it was difficult to hit him. How to KO such a powerful opponent? Link was in a state of contemplation, holding his fist and said, let's continue to KO first, and we'll talk if we really can't beat him. Link, I support you. And as Edge and Morales were watching the fun, and waved to Coach Ed and Andre Berto. The third round of the game began. When Link walked onto the boxing ring, a black man who imagined the Wolf King Garnet, with a strong body and a tough physique, looked very out of shape. The answer is, yes. Human nature is lazy. If you encounter difficulties, you give yourself a step down, and there may be countless steps next, and finally sink to the bottom of the valley. This is not what Link wants to see. He is a reborn person, a person with a special physique. As long as he works hard and keeps training, his qualities in all aspects will become stronger and stronger, and he may become a Superman. If he gives up his efforts and is content with the status quo, he will gradually become weaker and become an ordinary person. After the advantage of rebirth disappears, he will not even be as good as an ordinary person. This is not what he wants to see. So Link did not allow himself to relax and let himself step down. He wanted to defeat these opponents, let them become his grinding stones and stepping stones, and step on their bodies and crowns. Kill. Link clenched his fists and roared, and the pieces of his body that were taken away rose up, full of explosive power. Link, come on. The American boxing pioneers in the audience cheered Link up. Link waved his fists at them. After the game started, he chose to attack actively. His fists were like hammers, hitting the opponent continuously. Time was limited. He would not let himself rest, nor would he give the opponent a chance to time. In the first round, Link punched more than 120 times, but because the opponent was faster and had flexible dodging movements, only more than 40 punches highlighted the opponent's chest, most of which were jabs with little lethality. Was chopped very badly, and these more than 40 punches did not cause much damage to him. Link, play more flexibly, don't just attack blindly, and pay attention to conserving your energy. I understand. After entering the arena, Link continued to attack, using super fast speed and heavy punches to break through the opponent's defense and ambushed the opponent's body 9 times in the second round. In the second half of the attack, he discovered a detail that was not found in the videotape. During the game, Rosnier always unintentionally lowered his arms to block the position of his ribs. He remembered that Rosnier also wanted to make such a move in the last 2 games, but because the opponent was weaker than him and posed little threat to him, his posture for making such a move was not very obvious. After the start, under his strong attack, Rosnier gave up protecting his head at least 5 times, letting his arms sink to protect his ribs, especially his left ribs. This was almost a subconscious reaction. At first, Link didn't notice it, but the opponent made the move in the interval, more than 3 times in one cycle. For an old boxer who has been in the underground boxing ring for many years, it was difficult for him not to notice this. Chapter 54, Fighter. Link had fought in underground boxing rings, and had been seriously injured, and had also beaten others. When the opponent made such a move, he suddenly realized that the opponent had an injury in his ribs, maybe an old injury. He thought that Rosnier was a veteran who had experienced more than 10 boxing trainings and more than 100 games. It was normal to have injuries on his body, and it was normal to compete with injuries. This year, Link participated in an unprotected fighting competition, and was kicked in the field with 2 ribs broken. But in order to earn enough medical expenses for his mother, he had to fight with injuries on the field. He vomited blood while fighting, and the visual effect was very amazing. The rich people in the audience blushed, yelled, and threw money into the cage. Link earned 30,000 in that game. Link saw the opponent's flaws and didn't pay attention to the exhibition. He used a set of combination punches to pretend to attack the opponent's head, and the opponent's arms blocked. Bang! Then he threw a left straight punch, swiftly and fiercely hitting the opponent's left rib. Ugh! The opponent groaned, covered his left ribs and retreated crippled, and hit the ropes. Link did not withdraw his hand, but rushed forward and punched the opponent's chest several times in a row, breaking the opponent's defense. With his arms protecting his ribs, Link punched directly on the top of his opponent's head. 1 punch, 2 punches, 3 punches, until the opponent was knocked to the ground. Break. The referee came over and grabbed him, stopping him from continuing to punch. Link raised his head and clenched his fists, quietly looking at his opponent with a painful face. He felt a little bit of pity in his heart, but he immediately threw it away as garbage. This is a boxing ring, an arena. Describing the opponent's choice to play on stage with an injury, it means that he is ready to bear all the consequences, including injury, disability, cerebral palsy, and even death. If you don't hit him because he is injured and deliberately ignore his injury, then you are also a boxer, and it is best to go to Notre Dame de Paris as a statue. And for boxing, using all your strength to defeat the opponent is the real opponent, which is the greatest respect for the opponent and kindness to the opponent, rather than a kind of contempt. On the other side, after the referee asked, the opponent Rosnia chose to continue the game. The Cuban audience in the audience cheered and shouted that Rosnia was a hero and a champion, and asked him to beat the American to death. Link laughed when he heard it. It was a matter of discovering a note. When he came to someone else's territory to compete, no matter what kind of competition it was, in the eyes of the audience, he, an outsider, had won the villain. He couldn't help but miss the days in the underground boxing ring. Those rich people didn't care who was at home or away. As long as they fought well and fought hard, they would throw money into it. Their hobbies were very simple. They just wanted to see 2 people fighting like beasts, with blood and bruises all over their bodies. This was their way of pursuing excitement and happiness, very pure, 100 times more than the audience in the audience. Among them, Rosnia chose to be a hero. Link didn't mind fulfilling him, even if he became a villain, but as long as he won the championship, what did it matter if he was a villain? The 3rd round of the game began. Link continued to hit Rosnia's ribs with his fists. As long as Rosnia's arms sank and changed his defensive posture, his fists would quickly rush to his head and face. Bang! In the 32nd round of the 3rd round, Link knocked down his opponent again. This bastard is too despicable. Several Cuban boxers cursed indignantly in the audience, but Savin looked at Link calmly, with admiration in his eyes. Not only did he admire Link's sharp eyes, which found Rosnia's flaw in just 1.5 rounds, but he also admired his decisive and ruthless moves, which made it hard to believe that he was a rookie boxer who had just debuted. Savin looked at Aragon. Aragon nodded. He is a great opponent. You can fight me. Savin laughed and said with relief, I know you are very powerful, but you should not underestimate the enemy. Link's skills, strength, and speed are all very good, especially his physical strength. He threw more than 700 punches in the last game, and he was very fierce. Aragon nodded. In the boxing ring, the opponent Rosnia stood up and continued the game. Link smiled at the opponent. This Rosnia was also a very good boxer, with great strength, strong body, and strong will. If it weren't for the old injury on his ribs, it would be difficult for him to knock him down. You are very good, a real fighter, Link said to the opponent before the 4th round. Rosnia smiled with thick teeth. You are also very good. I haven't been able to recover my previous ability. Now I can't do it, but I will persist. Otherwise I can knock out. Come on. Link touched his gloves with the opponent and continued the game. He knew that the opponent would persist and become a stumbling block to his goal. Link would naturally not be soft-hearted. His fists kept hitting the opponent's ribs, using his best jab, which was fast and sharp. Rosnia kept dodging and defending with his arms. Although he was extremely fast and very flexible, and did a good job in defense, Link was faster, and his offensive was impenetrable, not giving his opponent a chance to rest and adjust. Bang! Link seized the opportunity again and hit his opponent's forehead with a straight punch, causing him to stagger and hit the ropes. Rosnier fell to the ground for the third time. The referee counted to 6 seconds. Rosnier stood up, holding his ribs, and said he could continue the game. But Savin and his doctor advised him to give up. Link had found his flaw. He was completely at a disadvantage. Continuing to fight would only cause injuries and perhaps end his boxing career early. Moreover, he had been knocked down 4 seconds 3 times. If he did it again, the referee would consider him a loser. If he persisted, he would have no chance of winning. After the game, Rosnier chose to listen to their advice. Link Baker, you won. Rosnier returned to the stage and his opponent gave up the game. It was a TKO, but it was also a KO. Link was also relieved. Rosnier was in good health and recovered well. Continuing to fight would consume a lot of physical strength. There was another game tomorrow, so he needed to conserve his physical strength. How are your ribs? Link asked. Weakness, an old problem, but thank you. There were a few times when you could hit my ribs with a smile, but you still chose my head, so I didn't get hurt anymore. Rosnier grinned and Link smiled lightly, not intending to accept the other party's thanks. He pretended to attack the opponent's ribs and actually attacked the opponent's head. It was a diversion, and hitting the head was more likely to knock the opponent down, not because he was soft-hearted. But you have to be careful. Aragorn is not a good alien guy. You'd better be prepared to accept failure. Rosnier said. Failure? Link shook his head and concluded. Rosnier was already in a bad situation in Manhattan. Aragorn, who was stronger than him and had no flaws, must be more difficult to deal with. He knew this very well, but he still believed that he could defeat Aragorn and become the champion of the Americas. Haha, you are as proud as Aragorn. I really look forward to seeing your match. Rosnier gave him a fist and walked off the stage, covering his ribs. I declare that the collision in this match is Link Baker. In the boxing ring, Link raised his fist high. This victory looks easier than the last one, but it is actually impossible. The last game relied on strength, speed and persistence. This game relies on rich game experience and judgment. If you don't have past experience, it will be extremely difficult to win this game. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 Interview. Mr. Link Baker, congratulations on winning the 3rd round. How did you perform against your opponent Rosnier? A reporter from the sports channel of Cuban TV asked in a post-match interview. Rosnier, he fought well, and he was very strong in all aspects. If he hadn't been injured, he would have been even stronger, Link said while wiping his sweat with a towel. If he hadn't been injured, would you have the confidence to defeat him? In boxing, I never lack confidence. Mr. Link Baker, it is said that Miss Emma Watson returned to London yesterday after filming Harry Potter. How is the progress between you two? Can you admit it? The reporter from the American Express handed over the microphone and spoke loudly. Link smiled gently. We are friends. Mr. Reporter, this is a sports competition. Please interview about boxing. I will refuse to answer such questions next time. Mr. Link Baker, congratulations on entering the next round of qualifying. Recently, there have been a lot of discussions in the domestic media in the United States about your continued use of KO to participate in the Olympics. Some people think that your insistence on using KO to fight the game will bring unnecessary harm to your opponents. Do you agree with this view? Asked a reporter from the Herald. Link raised his eyebrows. He had seen such comments on the boxing forums in the past 2 days. He said nonchalantly, I don't want to comment on this unprofessional attack. In addition, the voices questioning me have appeared since my debut. When I successfully KO'd my opponent, they suspected that I was cheating. When I won the Golden Gloves and won the championship, they suspected that my results were fake. Now I have successfully entered the 3rd round of the American qualifying competition, proving that my strength is not only real, but also obviously beyond their current imagination. They have nothing to attack me, and they think that there is something wrong with my way of playing. This is ridiculous. No matter what I do, they will want to discredit me, so I won't make any comments on this. I just use my fists to prove how ridiculous their respect is. That's very well said, Link. Keep going and strive to get an Olympic quota. Several reporters shouted. Thank you. I will. Link waved his fist and left the scene surrounded by the American boxing team. The third round is over, and there are 3 rounds left in the super middleweight competition. The top 5 boxers in the semifinals are Link, Lorenzo Aragon, Fernando Vargas of the Mexican team, Douglas Silva of the Jamaican team, and Haitian boxer Calvin Peters. After the draw, Link will play against Haitian boxer Calvin Peters in the 4th round. Pisto is a 23-year-old black man, nicknamed Rock, with a height of 182 and an arm length of 183. His amateur record is 43 wins and 1 loss in 44 games. Because the opponent is ready to play, his strength, physique, and ability to withstand blows are very good. The data shows that the opponent has never been knocked down by a professional in the game. This is a more difficult opponent. Link, my luck is too bad. I drew you the most powerful opponent again. Coach Ed said helplessly after the draw. It doesn't matter. I like to compete with masters. Link said indifferently. He came to participate in amateur competitions, focusing on accumulating records and expanding his reputation. He also wanted to accumulate more competition experience and hone his skills. He could gain more experience by playing against these tough opponents. So he would fight one by one, no matter how strong his opponent was. After seeing Ed off, he turned on the video recorder, watched the opponent's game video, and listed the opponent's strengths and weaknesses with a pen, trying to find the opponent's weaknesses. All boxers have weaknesses, such as Ender's Edge, whose weaknesses are in physical strength and resistance to blows. Andre Berto, compared with Link, he is not tall and has a slightly shorter arm length, which is a disadvantage when playing against Link. In addition, Rosnia, who had just played, had injuries on both ribs, which was a weakness. The next opponent, Calvin Pista, has A+ willpower, a physique, a resistance, a punch weight, B+ technique, and B+ speed. This is an opponent with outstanding advantages and disadvantages, a bit like Morales, but in terms of willpower and resistance to blows, he is obviously stronger than Morales, so the next battle will be another tough one! Exclamation mark. While watching the video, Taylor called and asked about the progress of his match. Since she didn't know much about amateur boxing, and didn't even know how amateur matches were scored, Link simply talked about the results of the match. Elimination, 18-9, 9-5, 3 consecutive wins, and still 3 consecutive KOs. Link, can you make it to the finals? Of course, my goal is to be the world champion. Come on, I really hope to see you become the world champion. When is the final? July 5th, 2 days away. Link remembered what Taylor said last time, saying that he would definitely come to watch his next match, otherwise he would grow 5 centimeters taller. I don't know if this busy man has time this time. 2 days later? Let me check the schedule. Oh no, Link, I have a music award ceremony on that day, so I probably won't be able to make it. Link, you can't blame me, right? Taylor said regretfully on the phone. Link shook his head and smiled. It doesn't matter. This is Cuba. Americans can't get a visa. It's okay for you to fly there. We agreed to play in China. Next time I'll play in China, you can come back and see me when you have time. Link, you're great. I like you more and more. What should I do? Link smiled. After chatting for half a year, he hung up the phone and continued to watch the game video and sort out the information of the next opponent. Los Angeles, the rainbow stage of Swiftsville was brightly lit. Taylor put down her guitar, hung up the phone, hummed a song, tapped her fingers on the keyboard, and booked a table online. Havana worksheet. Suddenly she heard a breath, and when she looked up, there was Mrs. Andrea standing in front of the low table, leaning over to look at the computer screen, with a white mask on her face. Mom, how are you? Taylor was startled, leaned back and patted his chest, and said to Mrs. Andrea in dissatisfaction, "You just told Link that you have to attend the music award ceremony on July 5th, and don't have time to go to Havana to watch the competition. And you have to order homework." Mrs. Andrea straightened up and tapped the mask with her fingers. Taylor raised his red lips and smiled proudly. "I won't tell you." Mrs. Andrea snorted disdainfully. "Isn't it just a surprise? Tell him you can't participate first, let him down, and then on the day of the competition you suddenly appear at the competition site and give him the biggest surprise, right? It's boring. It's all left over from our generation." Taylor pulled down the corner of his lip and looked at Mrs. Andrea with a faint look. Mrs. Andrea felt uncomfortable being looked at by her, waved her hand, told her to go to bed early, and then went back to the bedroom on the second floor. Swish. As soon as she entered the bedroom, Mrs. Andrea immediately tore off the mask on her face, and her face became cold, no longer as gentle and kind as before. She took out her cell phone and called her assistant Emily. In an imperative tone, she asked her to find a few important activities and fill Taylor's schedule on July 5th. Remember to make sure that they are important, so that Taylor will not be willing to postpone them, or cannot postpone them. The more important, the better. But, Assistant Emily's voice on the phone was a little hesitant. "But what, Annie? Taylor has previously told us that she will go to Havana, Cuba to watch Link play in the next few days, and asked us not to arrange too much work. She also told us, once this morning, that she will definitely be very happy if we suddenly arrange a lot of work for her." Assistant Emily said cautiously. "I will be responsible for Taylor Della, you don't have to worry. You can at least find a way to solve it. Get Taylor up and make sure she doesn't have time to go to Havana that day. This is a task I assigned you. Think about it." Andrea hung up the phone. Suddenly, she saw her husband Tom Swift's drawings in the reflection of the floor-to-ceiling window glass. Mr. Swift was wearing pajamas, holding a newspaper in his hand, and taking it off the ground, and looked at his wife, Mrs. Andrea, with a surprised face. Mrs. Andrea turned her head in dissatisfaction and said angrily, "Tom, you scared me." Mr. Swift shrugged, sat on the bed, pulled the quilt to cover his legs, frowned and looked at his wife. "So the last time Taylor couldn't go to Miami to watch Link play, was it also your arrangement?" "I did it for her own good," Mrs. Andrea said calmly. "If the two of them are truly in love, what's the point of the difficulties I created for them? If they can't even pass this little difficulty and test, it doesn't matter if they are together. The result is good. Am I wrong?" Mr. Swift thought for a moment, adjusted the legs of his glasses, and sighed. "Taylor is still young. Young people can only mature after experiencing several relationships. There is no need for you to intervene. I know, but Link is a very dangerous person. His father is a smuggler and gangster. He was beaten to death on the street 5 years ago because he was insane. Link himself has been in prison twice, and he was almost killed on the street more than 2 months ago. Do you feel comfortable letting such a person contact your daughter?" Mr. Swift frowned as he listened. "I don't think this is a good first aid target. Annie, have you told Taylor this? Our daughter is a smart girl. She knows what is good and what is bad. If you resist her like you do, she will get closer to Link." I said, "After all, after leaving Miami, her relationship with Link has faded. Some time ago, she saw Link's cool performance in the boxing ring, and she suddenly fell in love with him again. She is a strong girl, and there is no need for me to persuade her." Mrs. Andrea covered her forehead and said helplessly. Mr. Swift sighed lightly, put his arm around his wife's shoulders and said, "Annie, you have worked hard. Didn't I say that to you just now?" Mrs. Andrea smiled slightly and said, "Dear, I wanted to hear you say that your waist was uncomfortable a few days ago. If Emily can't adjust it, do you want to pretend to be sick from tomorrow?" "Ah." Mr. Swift was stunned for a moment, adjusted the legs of his glasses, and said helplessly, "Annie, is it necessary?" "Of course it's necessary. Taylor must not go to Havana. If she goes there, their relationship will definitely be established, and the relationship will be closer. In the future, they will want to break them up, and the impact will be greater. So dear Tom, for your daughter, it's time for you to make some sacrifices." Mrs. Andrea looked at her husband and pointed at his waist. Mr. Swift scratched his scarce hair, and his heart was very entangled. He positioned himself as a kind father and a good father. Now his wife wants him to go along with the crowd and destroy his daughter's love and become a bad father. He really doesn't want to see this happen to him, but his wife is watching beside him. If he doesn't agree, how can he explain to his wife? What should he do? Chapter 56, the 4th round. The game went to the 4th round, 5-4, and only one person was eliminated in this round. Link vs. Haitian boxer Calvin Peters, Lorenzo Aragon vs. Douglas Silva of Jamaica, Fernando Vargas of Mexico vs. established boxer Alvar Enriquez. Alvar was the first in the Syrian boxing team. He was defeated by Aragon in the 2nd round. Later, he won 5 challenges in a row and defeated 5 opponents including Andre Berto and qualified for the top 3. His strength is very good. It is said that, if he had not met Aragon, he would have advanced in the 2nd round and would not have needed to participate in the challenge. The first game of the 4th round was Aragon vs. Silva of Jamaica. They are both black. Silva's skin color is a little dull and his body is also very strong, but after meeting Aragon on the boxing ring, he is completely at a disadvantage. Although Aragon looks very proud, he is indeed very strong. He has long arms, great strength, and continuous offensives. He seizes the opportunity and scores several points on the opponent. He is also very good at guerrilla warfare. His footsteps fluctuate at any time. He often hits his opponent and makes him dizzy. Another point is that he is also very energetic. He played 3 circles, turned around on the stage, and threw more than 400 punches, but he didn't sweat much. In comparison, Link sweated a lot in the first 3 games. How do you feel? Coach Ed asked. Very good. Link nodded. Coach Ed frowned. Aragon's strength was no worse than Link's. If Link was willing to play the game in a scoring way, he would still have a chance to win, but it was almost impossible to KO Aragon. He was a little obsessed with his goal, and it was useless to persuade him. Don't worry, Ed, I can KO him. How to KO? Hit hard. The game on the stage was over, and the referee pulled Aragon and Douglas Silva to stand in the middle of the stage, facing the referee chairman. The Olympic Games use computer scoring, and the referee will score according to the number of times the boxer hits the opponent. In the competition, without any barriers, the boxer uses the peak of any fist. The peak of the fist of the glove is different in color, mostly white, to directly hit the opponent, the head, waist and above. In the continuous fight in the athlete's shorts, the points will be awarded to the athlete with the greater advantage according to the degree of advantage of both parties in the fight, and the party with the greater advantage will get 1 point. Knock the opponent to the ground in the game, each time counted as 1 point. The referee will score quickly after the boxer hits the opponent. If 3 or more of the 5 referees press the score button at the same time, it will be counted as 1 point. Subtract 3 people and the computer score will not increase. The final relative score was 32:14. Aragon defeated the opponent by a large score. This is the 4th time that Aragon has scored more than 30 points in 4 rounds, which is quite impressive. Link, can you do it? Andre Berto asked. Link thought about it and thought it should be possible, but this year, the share was controlled to more than 30 points in every game, and the transaction volume was extremely large. Because the qualifying round was too short and the opponent was too strong, India hit the opponent's effective parts more than 30 times in 4 circles in precise groups, which was not much less difficult than KO. The second game, Mexican Fernando Vargas vs boxer Alvar Enriquez. The 2 sides fought for 4 rounds, and finally Alvar Enriquez defeated the first Fernando Vargas of the Mexican team with 24-21, successfully completing the counter-attack. It caused a lot of praise at the scene. Alvar was eliminated in the 2nd round, and then he had 5 consecutive challenges, all of which were successful. He also successfully counter-attacked Fernando of Mexico in the 5-2-3, and his strength was very strong. This time, Alvar Enriquez also surpassed Link and Aragon for a time, becoming the biggest highlight of this Olympic qualifying tournament. The 3rd game was Link against Haitian boxer Calvin Peters, 23 years old, black, nicknamed weight, 182 centimeters tall, 183 centimeter arm length, 43 wins and 1 loss in 44 amateur games, and the only loss was to Aragon at the American Pan American Games conference last year. He is sturdy and strong, much stronger than the black reefs on the seashore, with extremely high resistance to blows and extremely strong willpower. According to his information, He has never been knocked down in the past 44 games, not even Aragorn. Since Link and Rock Peters are both famous boxing celebrities, on the day of the game, more than 3,000 spectators came to the scene, filling the venue of the Cultural and Sports Center. Among these people were ordinary citizens, hundreds of boxers who came to participate in the game, and short film and media reporters. Everyone wanted to see whether KO Madman Link could knock down Rock Peters within 4 circles, and also wanted to see how long Rock Peters could hold out under Link's strong attack, and whether he would kill Link in return. Even the Herald published a comment to celebrate the festival, saying that this was a contest between a hammer and an iron block. Whether the hammer smashed the iron block or the iron block broke the hammer, it still needed to be fought. The Miami Herald was also somewhat pessimistic about the outcome of the match, because Link said before the match that he wanted to KO all opponents, which meant that he not only had to beat Peters, but also had to completely defeat him, and loudly knocked Peters unconscious and unable to get up for 10 seconds. But Afghanistan has a very low success rate in knocking out a boxer like Peters. Editor-in-Chief Raphael Varane finally advised Link in the article, advising him to temporarily give up the plan of KOing his opponent to win the match, and rely on the dream of points first. He reached the Olympic quota, and with his strength, it would not be difficult to win a medal in the Olympics. He also said that he was young, and was becoming a long-term, with great potential, and he should not be discouraged by the victory of the battle. He would persist, and would definitely achieve great success in boxing in the future. Editor-in-Chief Raphael Varane hired a psychologist to do psychological counseling for Link before the match started, to prevent him from being depressed after failure. Even the local casinos in Havana gave the tour plate, and the odds of Link KOing Peter were as high as 110. It is said that many people bet on it. In this atmosphere, Link did not suppress his self-doubt at all. Could such a powerful opponent really get a knockout from him? When he walked onto the ring, his opponent, Rock Peters, had already arrived. He was wearing blue armor, and stood on the ring like a shocked iron tower, with a dark head and a dull expression. Link looked at the other person. He was indeed a strong man. This man was probably the biggest challenge he had encountered since his debut. It would definitely be difficult to knock him down, but if he could knock him down, he would have completed a difficult challenge, and his mentality would also change to become stronger and have more experience in matching. It was like a process of increasing mental panic. The more victories, the stronger the mentality. A person with a strong mentality is a real strong man. So no matter how difficult it is, he must be knocked down. Come on, Link. Morales and others shouted loudly. I will. Link raised his fist and waved it. Boxing. After the game started, Link waved his fist and launched a tentative attack on his opponent. He wanted to use his fist to test the opponent's reaction ability, punch weight, and defense. These types of boxing professions cannot be seen through videotapes. You need to fight them first and compare them with yourself before you can make a judgment. After more than 10 exchanges of punches, Link found that the opponent's reaction was average, roughly B+. The weight of the fist was at least 900 pounds, heavier than Morales, Mario, and Rosnia's fists. After being hit, the arm was numb, and being hit in the ribs would cause vomiting blood. Peter's arms were very strong. When he raised his head to defend, Link's heavy punches could hardly break through his outer defense. The defense strength was at least A+, or S. Link couldn't help but worry. Before the boxing match, because the opponent's strength was not as good as his, he used heavy punches to blast open the opponent's defense, and then used jabs plus straight punches plus swinging punches to hit the opponent's head, causing the opponent to knock down, or knock down completely. Now I encounter a tough guy, and my heavy punches can't break the opponent's outer defense at all. How to fight? If Link insists on KO, he will definitely lose. Aragon said lightly in the audience. Rossignol looked at the stage. How did you beat Peters last time? 14:8 exclamation point. You only got 14 points from him? Rossignol was surprised. Aragon lost 2 games in the first 2 years of his debut, but he grew very fast. After the age of 22, he was never defeated. Every time he played with his opponent, he scored more than 20 points, and 30 points was also very fast. But last year at the Pan American Games, he often played with Peters, but he only got 14 points. Do you think Link will give up KO? Seon looked at the same eyes on the boxing ring. Rosenal thought for a while. He is a smart man. If he can't knock down his opponent, I think he should change his formation. Eragon shook his head and concluded, no, Link is a proud man. Changing his formation means failure. I think he won't change the situation, even if he loses a game. You are the same as Link. Seon laughed and held the camera to the boxing ring, ready to record the game and play the video teaching materials immediately. Chapter 57, An Anesthesiologist vs. Rock. Link's fear only lasted for a moment before he left all his thoughts behind. In the competition on the stage, every second counts. Since he has made up his mind to KO his opponent, he will do everything he can to knock him down to the ground. After the game started, Link turned on the iron-making mode, and his footsteps pressed close to Peter's, and his heavy punches bombarded Peter's arms continuously, one punch after another. Peter's body is very strong, and the opponent has protective gear, so the fight is like hitting wood, puffing. In addition, the opponent's chest defense is also very strong, and his arms tightly protect his head and ribs, protecting the effective points very tightly. No matter where he hits, Peter's fists and arms will arrive in time to make up for the defense and break the block. In the first round, Link threw 87 punches, 35 heavy punches, an average of 1 heavy punch every 4 seconds, and only 2 heavy punches hit the opponent's ribs accurately. Because the opponent's ribs are protected by protective gear, the 2 punches did not cause much damage to the opponent. But after Link finished a cycle, he was sweating. Link, have you ever thought about changing your fighting style? Coach Ed sprayed water on him from a water bottle and said, I'm not giving up KO. I mean, switch from offense to defense. I've watched your 2 matches just now. Not only you were attacking Peters, but Peters was also attacking you. He just hit your effective parts at least twice. The meaning is obvious. He doesn't recognize your strength and thinks you can KO him, so he also wants to fight back and score points on you. Why don't you do a good job of defense first, consume the opponent's strength, and then fight back in the 3rd round? Maybe there will be unexpected gains. Coach Ed knew that he couldn't persuade him, so he changed his persuasion method. Link listened to Ed's words and looked at Peters, a Haitian man at the opposite corner. In the previous games, because the opponents were not strong, lacked physical strength, were not fast, or had insufficient resistance to blows, every time he threw a heavy punch, those opponents would switch from the offensive end to the defensive end, guarding tightly, fearing that they would be knocked down by his heavy punches, like Andre Berto. But it was different with Peters. Peters was not afraid of his punches, and he believed that he could take his punches. His punches had no intimidating effect on Peters. Even Peters wanted to use his punches to intimidate him. Perhaps in Peters' heart, he was the important party. This discovery made Link understand a little. After so many games, he was often called an anesthesiologist and a KO maniac. This was the first time he was regarded as an important party. He spit out the water in his mouth and came up with an idea. He decided to try it out to see if this idea was right. At the beginning of the 2nd round, Link and Peters walked to the middle of the ring. Hey, Peters, your defense is very good, Link said admiringly. Peters snorted with his short nose and had no intention of speaking. Link grasped the opponent's expression tightly and saw a hint of contempt in his eyes. This discovery also shocked Link. He had played so many games and KO'd more than 20 opponents. This was the first time he was despised in a game. He was not unfamiliar with this kind of contempt. He was very familiar with it. When he first learned boxing from Leo Liu, he was short, thin, crude in technique, clumsy in movements, and had almost no shortcomings except for his great strength. Boxing is a world for the strong. He also encountered a lot of ridicule, contempt, and disdain unintentionally. His first nickname was Minor. In order not to be laughed at and despised, he stayed in the boxing training hall every day, punching the sandbag one by one, and lifting the barbell heavier than himself again. He didn't know how many times he was injured, but he didn't give up training. He grew up little by little in the contempt of others, so he was very sensitive to such eyes. After sensing the other party's thoughts, Link decided to test it. If the other party really despised him, it would definitely be good news. He followed Peter's round closely and continued to attack, but the attack density in the second round was much smaller than the first round, and the power was much smaller. This also gave Peters the opportunity to counterattack. After his footwork attack failed, Peters took the opportunity to punch him in the chest. Link was knocked back a step. Peters followed up with several straight punches and a jab, quickly hitting Link's ribs and shoulders. Link staggered and leaned his back against the ropes. Wow. There were waves of exclamations at the scene, especially the exclamations of the American boxing team. In the past, Link always beat others and beat his opponents back repeatedly, but now he was beaten back repeatedly by his opponent. This phenomenon was too rare, and everyone couldn't help but exclaimed. Even Link couldn't stand it anymore. Andre Berto and others looked at the boxing ring in shock. They all knew how strong Link's ability to withstand blows was. Now Link could no longer withstand Peter's heavy punch. Was Peter's heavy punch stronger than Link's? Link's punch weighed more than 1,000 pounds. Peter's was stronger than him. Wasn't he at the level of a world boxing champion? Will Link be KO'd? Jones Fullers asked. Everyone was stunned by his question. If the KO maniac Link was KO'd, it would definitely be the biggest news in the boxing world in 2008, even bigger than the news that the British boxing champion Joe Calzaghe defeated Bernard Hopkins. In the boxing ring, after Link hit the ropes, the offensive and defensive positions of both sides seemed to change instantly. Tepes changed from passive defense to active counterattack, waving his fists and hitting Link's arms one by one, trying to break Link's defense and knock him to the ground. But Link's speed and reaction ability far exceeded him. When defending, Link raised his arms, moved his feet, moved his head to dodge, and paid attention to the opponent's heavy punches again and again. At the end of the second round, Peters threw 85 punches, mainly heavy punches. At the beginning of the third round, Peters continued to attack, and his punch weight gradually decreased, almost to the level of Mario, and he was sweating profusely. Link continued to defend in this round, and his defense was still watertight, not being broken by Peters once, and his face was still clean. It turns out that Link is not only good at attacking, but also very meticulous on the defensive end. Seon exclaimed. In the previous few games, although Link also defended, he was attacking most of the time, and did not show much defensive ability. In this round, Peters attacked with all his strength, but he could not break Link's defense, not even once. Seon looked at Link, and his eyes were more and more admiring, because he suddenly found that Link was a perfect boxer. Even if Link was defeated by Peters in one round, he showed extremely high talent in defense, offense, speed, strength, mentality, and boxing quality. Except for being too ostentatious, this is almost a perfect boxing apprentice. No matter how good the defense is, it's useless. The third round is about to end, and he hasn't scored a few points yet. The ending is almost doomed. Aragorn shook his head. Do you think Link will fail? Rosnir solved it completely. Not completing the KO is a failure. Aragorn said. Chapter 58 KO Rock. In the ring, after a series of continuous attacks, Peters' physical strength was consumed. His rhythm gradually slowed down, and he began to react defensively. Link looked at the third timer on the sidelines. If the match had 10 rounds, he could induce Peters to attack for 5 rounds, consume his physical strength to the maximum extent, and then take advantage of his opponent's weakness to launch an attack. This was the best way. There were only 4 circles in this amateur match, and time waited for no one. Seeing Peters sweating profusely, Link raised his fists and launched a counterattack. His fists continuously hit Peters' arm's defense, which was very similar to the first round. The difference was that after a semicircular attack, Peters' energy was greatly consumed, and his arms were no longer as flexible as in the first circle when doing the defense. Even in the first circle, under Peters' tight defense, Link was still able to hit the opponent's ribs with 2 punches. How could he miss now? Bang! Link hit the opponent's right rib with a straight right punch, which was at least more than 1,000 pounds. Peters groaned and lowered his arms to protect his abdomen. Good opportunity. Link saw the opportunity and hit Peters' jaw with a right uppercut. Peters groaned, took a step back, and hit the fence, bleeding at the corner of his mouth. Wow! The audience below the stage exclaimed in amazement again. Link chased after him, pressed Peter's arm with his left arm, and took advantage of his standing position and arm length. From the top of his head, he hit Peter's forehead and cheek 3 times in a row, just like forging iron. Bang, bang, bang. Peters was forced into a corner and could not move. He could only hug his arms, hold his arms, and sneak attack his ribs with his fists. Break. The referee rushed up to separate. The game started again. Link only threw 1 punch, and the bell rang to end the 3rd round. Link, the next circle is coming. It's unrealistic to knock out Peters. This circle is mainly about points. Instructor Ed warned. Link nodded, held a bottle of water between his gloves, poured it all over his body, and asked Morales to wipe it with a towel. At the opposite corner, Calvin Peters' homework also gave him an assignment. Calvin, Link's plan to enter the Olympics by knocking out all the opponents has been interrupted by you. You did a great job. The scores of you and Link in the first 3 rounds are roughly the same. There is 1 round left. You should defend well first, and then look for opportunities to deal with Link. You want to get a few points from him and stabilize the victory. Come on, Peters. Peters' homework said. Peters nodded and spit out a mouthful of blood. The 4th circle began. There are 120 seconds left before the end of the game. In these 120 seconds, Link can throw a maximum of 120 punches. How can he knock out Peters with 120 punches? Link's method is to win by surprise. After the match started, his fists bombarded Peters' arms recklessly. 10 punches. He used 10 heavy punches to break Peters' defense again, aiming his fist at Peters' jawbone, and smashed it hard with a right arm swing punch. Crack. Peters made a choking sound, and when he looked up, his chin tilted slightly to the left, and blood jumped out of the corner of his mouth. Fuck. Peters shouted angrily. Link looked at the opponent instantly, without time to pay attention to the opponent's injuries. He raised his fists and attacked the opponent's intimidation, focusing on the jawbone. Peters lowered his head and used his arms to block the injury to his chin. Taking this opportunity, Link took advantage of his height and long arms, swung his fists, and punched Peters on the top of his head one by one. According to such a heavy punch, no one could resist the opponent's gun on the Goldfinger gloves, not even Morales. But Peters resisted. Link looked at the other's bleeding chin and was somewhat impressed, so he hit harder. He swung his fist at Peters, who protected his head with his arms and kept backing away, not giving him a chance to hit his face and jaw. If he continued like this, he would not be able to knock him down with another punch, let alone completely knock him down. Link raised his eyebrows and punched in the air. His body staggered and his back hit the ropes. The audience suddenly exclaimed. Peters was overjoyed, roared, and swung his fist at his head. Link's eyes lit up, and he tilted his head to feel Peters' fist. Peters' advantage was his physique and will, but his reaction ability. Be careful. Someone shouted from the boxing ring. Peters didn't react at all, and only heard a burst of air-breaking sound. Bang. Link's back-throwing punch, which was launched later but arrived first, hit Peters' jaw steadily and fiercely. Ah! Peters cried out in pain. His jaw suddenly tilted upwards, and his mouth also tilted. At this time, he opened unconsciously and spurted out a bloody mouthpiece. Peters staggered, grabbed the ropes when he was about to fall, and knelt on the ring. There were bursts of exclamations at the scene. Shocked Peters claimed that he had never been knocked down, but this time he was knocked down by Link and knelt on the ring. Stop. The referee stopped the game, and the 2 doctors came on stage to check Peters' jaw injury. It was estimated that his jaw was dislocated in his mouth, and there were serious lacerations inside and at the corners of his mouth. It was recommended to stop the game immediately. Peters chose to continue. There were 52 points left in the game. Link swung his fist and hit Peters' head hard. Peters protected his mandible and stepped back countless times, but his speed was obviously not as fast as Link. Link chased him and hit his opponent with a feint. Link took the opportunity to throw a body jab at a tricky angle, breaking through the enemy's defense and accurately hitting Peters' torn mandible skin. Peters cried out in pain and retreated to the corner, covering his chin. Broken. The referee shouted, pointing at his arm. Link raised his fists, and the entity took 3 steps back. There were 32 seconds left. The doctor checked Peter's mandible and said that the mandible was seriously injured and the inner wall of the mouth was severely torn, and it was recommended to stop the game immediately. Peters vomited blood and looked at Link angrily, mumbling that he wanted to continue the game and anyone on the scene could get a KO on him. Link rushed to the opponent and nodded, and he didn't intend to give up KOing the opponent. After the game started, he took advantage of Peter's dizziness and broke his opponent's defense with a swing punch, followed by a very tricky right jab, piercing Peter's arm and hitting his mandible accurately again. Crack. Peter screamed in pain, took a step back with his arms protecting his chin, and spurted out of his mouth. Link, who had seen a lot of blood, didn't blink 12 seconds. Seeing that the time was up, he followed closely, broke the opponent's defense with a left straight punch, and swung his right swing punch fiercely. "Stop. We give up," Coach Peter shouted from the audience, throwing a white plank road towards the ring. "Stop." The referee also hugged Link, who was furious, and shouted to him to stop, saying that he had won, and he should stop fighting. Link put down his fist, exhaled, and smiled at the audience. "Yeah. Link won." The members of the American boxing team screamed loudly. Link shook his body, leaned against the ropes to breathe heavily, and his arms were twitching in fear. This game was too difficult. The opponent's body and willpower were quite tenacious. If he hadn't injured Peter's chin and protected the opponent's injury in front, it would have been almost impossible to KO the opponent in the game. But he still won. TKO is also KO. Link wiped the sweat with his arm and raised his fist to the audience. He actually won and got a KO. Rosnier looked at Savin and Aragorn in shock. "He is stronger than any of us think, Aragorn. You have to be careful." Savin held Aragorn and looked at Link in the ring. He clenched his fists with a high spirit of fighting on his face. Chapter 59 Taylor. The match between Link and Peters is over. The Doomsday newspaper greeted this match with tragic and shocking. No one expected that Link could smash the jaw of Rock Peters and end the event with the opponent's surrender. The result was shocking. But afterwards, Link was also criticized by some critics, saying that his way of playing was a bit bloody. In amateur competitions, when his opponent was protected by protective gear, he could still smash his opponent's jaw with his fist, which was simply too brutal. He also gained a new symbol, Destroyer, saying that his heavy punches could destroy all opponents. No matter how strong the opponent's body was, he would be destroyed under his attack. The sports edition of the official Cuban newspaper Granma also published an article reporting on it, with more criticism than praise, believing that the Olympic series was an amateur competition, focusing on cutting and communication. Link's KO confrontation debate method in every battle was too extreme and unacceptable, and believed that the Olympic Committee and the United States Boxing Association should intervene and urge Link to correct the way of playing. Link doesn't care about the criticism of the young children. It is normal to get injured in the boxing ring or to injure the opponent. Boxers will get injured in both professional and amateur competitions. Some boxers ask to stop the game after being injured, treat the wound, and prevent the injury from affecting their future development, such as Rosnell. Some are more aggressive and insist on choosing to continue, resulting in injuries, such as Peters. After being injured in the game, whether to continue the game or give up the game is entirely up to personal choice, and the consequences are borne by oneself, not the opponent. In addition, the Olympic Committee and the Boxing Association have no right to participate in it. Boxing competitions, whether amateur or professional, value the boxer's strength or personal defense. Breaking and offensive capabilities cannot be changed just because others have heavy fists and sharp attacks. This request is extremely unreasonable, amateur, and absurd, just like asking factories around the world to stop producing axes because the door of your house was broken open by an axe. Afterwards, Ring magazine refuted the commentary article in Granma. After the fourth round of the game, the qualifying round entered the semi-final stage. Link drew the dark horse Alva Henriquez. Lorenzo Aragon drew the opponent of Fernando Vargas of the Mexican team. After Fernando was defeated by Alva in the excitement, he defeated Gras Silva of the Jamaican team and Peters of the Haitian team to give up the game and qualified for the semi-finals. The match between Link and Dark Horse Alva was in the first game. Compared with the firmness and heaviness of Rock Peters, Dark Horse Alva is a boxer who excels in technology and speed. The speed of attack and evasion is very flexible, and the style of play is also very tenacious. Alva also relied on this advantage. After failing in the first round, he won 5 games in a row and directly entered the top 3. The new generation of boxers can only crush their opponents in technology and speed. It is not difficult to win the game. The difficulty is how to KO him. Link, there is news from the Olympic Committee that Alva took the initiative to give up the game, and you commanded the finals. Link was watching the game recording of his opponent Alva in the hotel, and Ed walked in excitedly and told him the news that Alva decided to give up the next exciting game. In the last game, Alva played against Fernando of the Mexican team. Although he won the game, Fernando's style of play was too fierce, which caused him to injure his ribs and fracture 2 ribs. If he fights him again, the injury will be more serious. After careful consideration, they decided to give up the next game. Haha, Link, your style of play is too fierce. Alva, Rock Peters were injured by you and were scared, so they took the initiative to give up the game, and Aziji laughed. Link wants to KO and destroy his opponents in every game, and he has done it in every game. Originally, the master needs to be prepared to be knocked out by you before going on stage. It's scary to think about it, Jones Fuller said with a smile. Link smiled lightly. It was good news that his opponent gave up the game voluntarily. With one less game, he could rest for one more day and prepare more before the game. After all, the next opponent, Eragon, was more difficult to deal with than Pete. He almost failed to KO him. How should he beat Eragon, who was more powerful than him? Link watched Eragon's videotape more than 10 times and still had no idea. Ding ling ling. The cell phone rang. It was Taylor's call. Taylor said she had arrived at the Havana airport and asked if she could pick her up. Link was a little surprised. The last time he called, Taylor said she didn't have time to come. Why did she come again? He borrowed spare parts from there and drove a minibus to Jose Marti International Airport. Jose Marti Airport is located 18 kilometers southwest of the center of Havana. It is named after Jose Marti, the leader of the Latin American Liberation Movement. It is Cuba's domestic and international airport. Due to the tight embargo, the Cuban government has prohibited any US flights from landing at Cuban airports since the 1960s. It was not until the easing of relations between the two sides in recent years that some restrictions were relaxed, but only some US groups went to Cuban airports, and flights to Cuba were opened at 3 airports in New York and Los Angeles. Link drove to the airport's T3 International building and saw Taylor, whom he had not seen for a long time, in the lounge area. She was wearing a white printed t-shirt and a pink hat on her head, tall and beautiful, with a guitar case hanging on her back, which made her very conspicuous in the crowd. There was also a middle-aged man in a wheelchair next to her, and a female assistant who was looking down at the phone. Hey, Taylor. Link took off his sunglasses and waved. Link. Taylor waved happily, ran over from the crowd, and threw herself into his arms with a smile. Link smiled softly, and hugged the girl gently. You want to be cooler? Taylor blinked, looked at his face and smiled. Link looked at the girl's beautiful appearance, blue fox eyes, golden bangs, and pretty smile. She seemed to be more beautiful than before. He held her in his arms, and his nose was full of the patterns on her body. You are more beautiful too. Link smiled. Taylor, don't run so fast. There are many thieves here. The middle-aged man rolled his wheelchair and followed from the crowd. The man was in his 40s, wearing casual clothes, with an elegant appearance, a slightly bald head, and some of the tolerance of a middle-aged man. Link drafted the girl in his arms, and looked at the man in the wheelchair. Who is this gentleman? This is my dad. He suddenly became paralyzed the night before yesterday. My mother asked me to take care of him in the hospital, but I promised you to come to watch the game, and I can't break the appointment. I thought about it again and again, and suddenly I came up with a good idea. Why not bring him along? It just so happens that he also likes to watch boxing matches, right, Dad? Taylor hugged his arm and looked at Swift and smiled. Sir. Link looked at the father and daughter in confusion. The daughter brought her paralyzed father to watch the game. The father also agreed. Mr. Swift was a little embarrassed. The day before yesterday, he was forced to pretend that he couldn't get up because of back pain at the suggestion of his wife. His wife was just worried that he couldn't keep their daughter because of this small problem of back pain, so she exaggerated his condition and said that he was paralyzed. She was sad and said that she would find the best doctor and must cure him. He couldn't bear to see Taylor sad, so he told her that he was powerless. It was just a little problem and he would be fine in 2 days. Taylor asked him if he was really powerless. Mr. Swift said he was really powerless. After the doctor's examination, he also said that there was no big problem, temporary paralysis, and he would be fine after a few days of rest. Mrs. Andrea wanted to stay in Taylor's hospital to take care of him and not run around. Taylor took care of him for a long time and suddenly proposed to take him to Havana to watch the boxing match. Mr. Swift was reluctant to agree at the time, but seeing that Taylor was in a bad mood, he couldn't bear it and agreed, and then followed Taylor from Los Angeles thousands of miles away to Havana, the capital of Cuba, feeling like a dream. Mr. Swift, you are welcome to come to Havana to watch my game. I hope it will not affect your treatment. Link bent down and stretched out his hand and said, it's okay, it won't delay. Mr. Swift stretched out his hand and shook it with him. At the same time, he was looking at Link and found that he was wearing an ordinary t-shirt, had a good temper, and spoke politely. He didn't look like a bad person. Link, this is my assistant Emily. Taylor pointed to the lady pushing the wheelchair and said. The woman was in her 20s, wearing a casual dress. She was on the phone. When she heard Taylor's introduction, she nodded to Link. There was a phone above her head, and she whispered to Taylor, it's Anna's call. She heard that you secretly brought Mr. Swift to Havana, and she is very angry. Mrs. Andrea didn't know you were coming to Havana? Link asked from a distance. She was too busy, I didn't tell her. Taylor winked playfully, her lips curled up slightly. She took the phone and carefully called Mom, and an angry female voice immediately appeared in the microphone. Taylor, I asked you to take care of your dad at home. You took me to watch boxing matches abroad? Are you crazy? Taylor held the phone away from her ear and waited for the sound in the microphone to stop, then said with a smile, Mom, don't worry, I asked the doctor. The doctor told me that dad's illness is mainly caused by psychological problems. It's best to walk outside more, get some sun, and it will be fine in a few days. What nonsense are you talking about? Your dad is paralyzed. Do you want him to walk outside more? The voice on the phone was a little hysterical. Taylor covered her ears with her hands and transplanted the phone to Mr. Swift's hands. Dad, come and tell Mom that you are autonomous. Mr. Swift spread his hands. How could a paralyzed person like me do that? But this was his daughter's request. He could only answer the phone and speak softly to the cigarette. Link saw the sweat on Mr. Swift's forehead and secretly sighed that being a man is not easy. Being a man for a strong woman is doubly smooth. The group was delayed at the airport for several decades. Link drove Taylor, Mr. Swift, and his assistant Emily to the hotel. Because Mr. Swift and Emily always stayed by Taylor's side, Emily had to follow her wherever she went, so Link and Taylor didn't have much chance to care. Chapter 60 Mario. When Taylor Swift suddenly came to Havana, Coach West and his team were also afraid of Havana. Since it was relatively close to Havana, they took a ferry across the Florida Straits. There were more than 20 people in the group, including Reggie, Mario, and other boxers and apprentices from the boxing gym. They also came with 2 old acquaintances, Raphael Varane, the sports editor of the Herald, and reporter Simmons. Mr. Raphael Varane is a thin white old man wearing branded sunglasses, holding a beautiful black pipe in his hand, and a little girlfriend beside him. He has the demeanor of a French literati. He also spoke with a sudden heavy French accent, and occasionally suddenly popped out a few obscure French words, such as praising Link's last game as breathtaking, using impressionant instead of impressive. Link, you gave us a big surprise in the last game. We guessed many results, but we didn't expect how you would win the game. It was really wonderful. Mr. Varane spread his hands and said in an exaggerated tone. Link shrugged. Mr. Varane, if you believe me, my matches will have only one result in the future, KO. Haha, confident boy, I like you. Mr. Varane laughed and patted his arm. Raphael, please allow me to interrupt. Link, I have a few questions about the last match. Is it convenient? Reporter Simmons interrupted. After not seeing Simmons for a few days, Simmons changed his wig from the previous bangs to 2 or 3 inches of brown curly hair, looking young, fashionable, and eye-catching. Link nodded and said. Simmons immediately turned on the recorder and said, Link, in the last match, you injured Peter's chin, forcing him to admit defeat. Was this a tactic you had planned in advance? Link denied it. Before going on stage, I only had one tactic, which was to KO him. I didn't have a plan for how to defeat him. After all, the boxing ring is also a battlefield, and the situation changes in an instant. It's better to play on the spot than to make plans in advance. Mr. Verlaine nodded beside him, took a puff of his pipe and said, so injuring Peter's chin and waiting for him to surrender was also your on-the-spot performance? Almost. Peter's defense is very strong. He has the strongest defense among all the opponents I have met. I feel that he is no worse than professional boxers like Chris Bird. His ability to withstand blows is also very high, and his whole body is like an iron barrel. During the game, I attacked with hundreds of heavy punches, but I couldn't break his defense. Later, Coach Ed reminded me that it is better to attack his weak points, such as his nose, eyes, and chin, instead of attacking his whole body. Then I succeeded. Link spread his hands and smiled. Mr. Verlaine clapped his hands. Well done, Link. Your punch not only shocked the amateur boxing world, but also scared those professional boxers. I think when you go to the professional boxing world, there must be many cowards who refuse martial arts, because they are in awe of your iron fist. Link smiled and said, this is also the result I hope to see. I hope those guys who are in name only can give up the golden chieftain in advance and throw them to me before I enter the professional boxing world. If they are reluctant, please be ready to be KO'd by me. Mr. Verlaine said wow, clapped his hands, and praised Link for doing a great job. In name only? Which boxing champion are you referring to? Simmons asked enthusiastically. Not just one, but all those who dare to question my strength. Before the qualifying round, many people on the online media questioned his fraud in the Golden Glove warehouse, suspecting that his all KO results were fabricated by the promotion company and the boxing association. They were creating boxing stars, and Link was the chosen one. But as the qualifying round entered the 4th semifinals, Link used his iron fist to KO one strong opponent after another, raising his qualifying record to 21 wins and 21 KOs in 21 games. The doubts on the online media disappeared instantly. Instead, Link's fans kept chasing those people, often using his game data and short videos in various forums to attack those who had doubted him. The fans also greatly inspired him to prove his strength and eliminate the doubts of the children. This is also one of the reasons why Link insisted on using KO tactics in the qualifying round. Simmons heard the tone of his voice and secretly praised it. It was indeed Link's style. Just look at what Link said just now. After it spreads, someone will definitely call him a mouth cannon again. Link, since yesterday, there have been exciting news in the media questioning your way of playing. They think that you have the ability to score points in the game, but you insisted on using complete KO to decide the result. They think that this way of playing will hurt them. It is extremely cruel to the opponents and contrary to the Olympic spirit of sports. What do you think of this issue? They are talking nonsense. Mr. Verlaine, holding his pipe, scolded. All human sports are for the pursuit of higher, faster and stronger, and boxing represents the strongest. If you can't hurt your opponent in a boxing match, then what is the point of boxing? Just like in the tortoise and the hare race, the hare can't run too fast to prevent hurting the tortoise's self-esteem. This is ridiculous. Link smiled lightly. Mr. Verlaine said to him, boxing is the art of knocking down. If you can't knock down your opponent, that's the boxing of a wimp. I don't think I've done anything wrong. Those who think I'm wrong are laymen. Why should we listen to the nonsense of laymen? Simmons nodded and wrote down his words. After the interview, Verlaine and Simmons had other tasks, so they said goodbye in advance. Before leaving, they asked him to keep working hard and strive to KO Aragon. They also said that it didn't matter if he couldn't KO, he had to win the America's Championship first. Obviously, Mr. 2 Points felt that he had a chance to score and defeat Aragon, just like everyone else, but it should be difficult to position him to KO him. Link, how did you do it? Those guys in the qualifiers are the best from all over the place. How can you KO them? Ragi finally found a chance to talk to him and came up to him with admiration on his face. Probably because I'm better than them. Link smiled, shaking his fist. Yeah, you're awesome. So awesome. Link glanced at him, felt that his expression was a little awkward, said thank you, and went to talk to Wes. After Link left, Ragi bumped into Mario. Why did you talk like that just now? Mario's face immediately fell, and he curled his lips. You said that, after I saw Link, I should praise him and please him. If he was happy, he might let me continue to be his sparring partner. I just praised him. Is there anything wrong with that? I want you to praise Link sincerely, and I want you to praise him with your heart, not to mock him. Ragi said helplessly. Mario scratched his fat face, frowned and said, but I really don't know how to flatter. There are some things I can't say, and I feel very ashamed. Ragi covered his forehead. That's not flattering, that's telling the truth. Link has fought from domestic to foreign countries. As long as he is his opponent, he will be KO'd by him. All of them. Don't you think he is very powerful? I don't think so. He is just talented and strong. If I had his talent and strength, I could also KO one with one punch. Mario said confidently, holding his fist as big as a sandbag. But Link is not only talented, he is also very hardworking and smart. Isn't that worthy of your admiration? Ragi said dryly. Hardworking and smart are not talents, are they? Mario blinked. Ragi patted his forehead, waved his hand, and ran to the side to drink water. Mario shrugged and looked at Link, who was chatting with West. At this time, West was full of smiles, patting Link's shoulders from time to time, laughing, happier than his son and grandson. Omen clenched his fists. Isn't it just a talent? What's so great about it? But when he thought about West's recent establishment of a new boxing sparring partner for Link, and heard that he would find two, Mario felt lost and unhappy. Isn't it enough to have such a strong sparring partner like himself? Why should he go out to find other sparring partners? When he thought about other sparring partners joining the boxing gym, they would occupy his boxing target and boxing ring, and would replace him to practice boxing with Link. Mario felt even more unhappy. No. The job of sparring must not be taken away by others. Mario took a deep breath, grinned, and smiled and moved between Link and West. Chapter 61 Selena Gomez. Chapter 61 Selena Gomez and Lorenzo Aragon defeated the trailing opponent Nando with a score of 32-14 in the semi-finals, and created another Olympic quota. The time for the final is gradually formed. As for who will be the super middleweight champion of the Americas between Link and Aragon, this discussion has never stopped since Link defeated Rock Peters. People in the event are arguing about this issue. Some people support Link's destruction, but don't think he can KO Aragon. If he insists on KO, Aragon will definitely become the final winner of the game. For example, Doug Fisher, editor-in-chief of Ring magazine, who is also a senior sports commentator, and served as the gold medal host of HBO's boxing column from 1994 to 2002, wanted to tell reporters in an interview. He believes that Link is obsessed with KO, and is very likely to lose. In the last game, the limit of Link and Peters' game was 12 seconds. If his offensive rhythm was a little slower for a few seconds, or Peters insisted for a while longer, he would not be able to end it with KO. Aragon is a tougher opponent than Peters. His physique, ability to withstand blows, and offensive ability are no worse than Peters. Another important point is that Aragon is more flexible than Peters, and his reaction speed and dodge speed are faster. Just like in the previous game, Link's back throw punch to plot against Peters will not work in the game with Aragon, which is a very disadvantageous place for Link's game. In addition, Aragon has participated in 2 World Boxing Championships and 1 Olympic Games. He has more competition experience than Peters and Link, especially in the 86 Amateur Games that Aragon participated in. He did not lose in the last 50 games, and in 70% of them, his game scores exceeded 30 points. It can be said that Aragon is the elite among the elites. If Link chooses to compete with Aragon by scoring, there is a 50% chance of triggering. If he insists on winning the game by KO, the probability of triggering is less than 10%. Doug Fisher suggested that Link use strategies flexibly and not be stubborn. In addition to Doug Fisher, experts and opinion leaders in the North American boxing world have expressed their opinions. Some people are optimistic about Link and think he can continue to set records, while others are more optimistic about Aragon and think he can win first place based on points. Everyone is fighting endlessly around the issues of who will win and who will lose and how to win. For a time, the start of an unknown Olympic qualifying competition has become one of the hottest sports news in Europe and the United States in recent times, even hotter than the news that the Celtics won the NBA championship trophy for the 17th time. Just tonight, more than 200 media reporters from all over the world came to the Havana Social Culture and Sports Center. This number actually exceeded the expectations of the Cuban government. It is said that dozens of reporters were not well prepared and were detained at the airport because they did not pass the Cuban customs inspection and could not cancel the competition on time. In addition, on the first day of the final, 12,427 tickets for the main stadium of the Social Culture and Sports Center were sold out. Many citizens and foreign tourists could not buy tickets and asked the Havana government to change the venue of the game to the larger Havana University Stadium. This request was rejected by Havana officials, but the Havana government said it would open up surrounding venues and add more than 3,000 seats. Therefore, on the day of the game, pedestrians and vehicles flocked to the Cultural and Sports Center Square. Look, there are so many people. Are they all here to watch Link boxing? Selena, don't be so rude. Call him brother. I won't call him brother. Tourist Selena Gomez wrinkled her nose and took a few photos of the densely packed crowd on the battlefield with her camera. She was actually looking at the tall lady. So Catherine, we flew here from New York just to watch a boxing match? The black-haired lady named Catherine flicked her forehead with her finger. Didn't you want to come here? You said you wanted to take a vacation after filming, and we gave you several places. You chose this place. Why are you blaming us? I was talking about Miami. Well, it's all Link's fault. Who told him to run around all day and come to Cuba to box? Selena pouted unhappily and said with frowned eyebrows, Catherine, has Link practiced boxing before? How come I didn't know? No. Then how did he become a boxer? Is he going to participate in the Olympics? I heard that the boxers who can participate in the Olympics are all very powerful, and they are the most powerful ones in the 4 continents. I don't know. Why is everything different? Catherine, do you know how to be a mother? Maybe you are a bit of a failure. Selena tilted her little face, pointed her finger at her chin, and joked playfully. Boom. The woman called Catherine stretched out her hand and tapped her belly on the top of her head again. Selena covered her head and stared at her angrily. She was very dissatisfied. Why are her mother and aunt all over 170 centimeters tall, and even Link, that bastard, is 186 centimeters tall? Why am I only 165? It's so unfair. I admit that I'm a failure and I don't care enough about Link, but Link is doing very well now, and I don't need to care about him anymore. How about I care more about you in the future? Catherine's woman rubbed her fluffy hair and laughed. Huh, I don't care. Selena slapped her hand away. Catherine, we got the tickets. We can go in. An older lady with 3 tickets came over and shouted, money? Selena ran forward and grabbed the tickets. $320. We bought it too late. $320? So expensive? No, when I see Link, I must pay him back. If he doesn't pay me back, I'll beat him up. Selena took the tickets and rushed to the ticket gate angrily. The ladies shook their heads and followed. In the backstage lounge of the competition venue, Link changed into his competition suit, walked to the lounge area outside, and said to Taylor who was waiting there, don't worry about me, I'm fine. You can just sit on the stage and watch the game. I heard that Lorenzo Aragon is very powerful, aren't you afraid? The lounge was brightly lit. Taylor Swift stretched her calves, sat on the bench, and looked at Link with his strong back bare. Seeing his strong chest muscles, well-defined abdominal muscles, and sexy mermaid lines, she couldn't help but take a few more glances. Goo, haven't you heard that I'm more powerful? Link smiled with his glasses on. I heard that you knocked out your opponents in 21 fights and hit Kyoto on the chin in the last fight. Manhattan is not good. By the way, how is Mr. Swift's condition? Will participating in the competition affect his treatment? No, the doctor said he was under a lot of pressure. I don't know where he got so much pressure from working in a financial company. Taylor shrugged with an inexplicable laugh. Link smiled lightly. Of course, the pressure on the middle-aged man was great. Link, it's time for the checkup. How are you ready? Morales shouted outside the door. It will be ready soon. Link replied and said to Taylor, go to the front to watch the game, and take good care of your father. I will find you after the game. Okay. Taylor smiled slightly, kissed him on the face, and then hummed, and left the lounge room. Link did a set of warm-up exercises in the lounge. His skin was slightly sweaty. He followed Morales to the examination room and the equipment inspection port to do the pre-entry inspection. In addition to the drug test, before entering the venue, another important inspection is weight measurement. Since the Olympic super middleweight category is between 71 to 76 kilograms, Link had to lose nearly 2 kilograms before the game. He did not dare to eat and drink too much during his stay in Havana. He ate bread and water brought from the United States every day. At this time, his weight was measured at 75.65 kilograms, which was almost not enough. Link, you have already obtained the Olympic quota, so you don't need to be too nervous about maintaining the game, and you don't need to pay too much attention to it. Play according to your original habits. If you can win, win. If you can't win, it doesn't matter if you lose. There will be many games next month, and we still have a chance to win back. Remember, don't get hurt. Coach Ed advised earnestly. I understand, you don't need to be too nervous. Link looked at his smile that had aged a little bit. Link. Come on. Link. Come on. Morales, Anders Edge, Andre Vito and other companions looked at him and waved their fists and shouted. Come on. Link also shouted and waved his fists. After the competition equipment passed the inspection, Link, wearing a red competition protective gear, strode out of the dark passage with his coach and assistants. Boom, the moment he walked out of the passage, waves of cheers like tsunamis hit his eardrums from all directions. Eragon. Come on. Eragon. Must win. Eragon is the champion. Eragon. Kill that American. Link was stunned for a second and suddenly realized that this was not Miami, nor was it his home court. The audience on the scene were not his supporters. This was a reverse battle. He looked up at the densely packed audience, laughed, raised his fist, and shouted in a huge wave of voice, Link must win. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Competition Scene. Eragon. Must win. Eragon. Champion. Half an hour before the game, nearly 20,000 seats were packed in the social and sports center, including 3 floors. Even the small empty sniper field around the boxing ring attracted the attention of media reporters, tourists and wealthy Cubans who were willing to pay a lot of money to watch the game. Only 10 minutes before the game started, the Rockets channel of HBO TV was not turned on. Sports host Steve Mandander also walked around empty-handed in the audience, with yellow coconut sweat stains on his shirt collar and forehead. The reason was simple. HBO TV was going to broadcast the epidemic prevention game. Before coming, it had communicated with Cuban officials and would pay the broadcast fee. However, before the game started, Cuba suddenly changed the official broadcast and did not allow the game to be broadcast. The sudden change of words caught the HBO TV staff off guard, and the previously prepared work was in vain. The host Steve and the cameraman scene could only stay in place blankly, waiting for the TV station's senior management to negotiate with the Cuban government. After more than a minute, an HBO staff member came over and told Steve that he could continue recording on the spot, but if Eragon lost the match, the recorded tape would not be allowed to be publicly broadcast. Why is that? Network engineer Scene complained and looked at Steve. Do we still need to record it? Record it. Record it first, and talk about it later. Steve thought about it. It is not clear that amateur boxing matches are not popular in TV broadcasts, because amateur boxing matches have guards, which are not exciting enough, and there are few KOs. The audience does not like to watch it, and HBO is not interested in broadcasting it. But since Link appeared after the amateur boxing matches, the situation has changed. This guy must KO his opponent in every match. The live broadcast of the match is very intense, no worse than professional boxing matches. The Golden Glove Warehouse Super Middleweight match, which was broadcast in mid-June, reached more than 15 million viewers in North America, becoming the highest rated program in boxing match broadcasts. HBO also earned a lot of TV subscription fees from this program. In the last match, Link fought against Haitian Peters, hitting the man's chin on the beach. The visual effect was full. The sports channel of Cuban TV sold the videotapes of the match to TV stations across America and earned more than $1 million. Link's opponent was Lorenzo Aragon, who was more powerful than Peters. Because they both had a great reputation in the American boxing world, many people who loved boxing wanted to watch each other's match to see who would win and who would lose. People wanted to see how profitable it was, and commercial TV stations such as HBO sent people to broadcast the match. The other party who just defended the match was Cuban athlete Aragon, and the match was held in Havana, Cuba. If Aragon lost the match, it would not be a win or loss of a match. It involved more complicated things. It was also out of consideration that the Cuban government repeatedly appeared in the matter of broadcasting the match. Steve wiped the oil and sweat on his face with a wet wipe. The guy who was eating asked Scene and several other staff members to prepare for recording. According to the official Cuban words, Aragon lost the match and the video could not be broadcast publicly, but if Link lost the match, the video of the match could be broadcast. Link has been very popular in the United States in the past 2 months. With his outstanding appearance, strong strength, and high-profile attitude, he has a large number of fans in the boxing world. There must be many people who want to watch him lose the boxing match. Judging from the situation on the scene, Steve thinks Link has little chance of winning. Aragon will win. Aragon champion. Steve's eardrums were buzzing with the shouting from the audience. He came to the corner with the gourd in his hand and said to the focus of the flashing red light, "Dear audience, good afternoon, I'm my old friend Steve Mandanda. I'm now in Havana, Cuba, a beautiful city on the Caribbean coast. The last boxing match I broadcast for you was at the American Airlines Arena in Miami, the Golden Gloves Reserve Super Middleweight Live. Today at the Havana Social Culture and Sports Center, I will broadcast a boxing match for you again. This match is the final of the Olympic Games America's qualifying tournament. After 6 rounds of competition, the mutual comparison of 62 super middleweight boxers from 18 countries has decided the top 2 in the Americas yesterday. They are Lorenzo Aragon from Cuba, who was the silver medalist in the 69 kilograms boxing competition at the 2004 Athens Olympics. Another boxer who entered the boxing match was Link Baker, a boxer from the United States. That's right, he won the super middleweight championship in this year's Golden Gloves with 17 wins and 17 KOs. In the current Olympic qualifying tournament, he continued to enter the finals with all KOs. His current amateur record is. Steve looked down at the coordination of his eyes and hands. 21 wins and 21 KOs in 21 fights. Oh, very impressive data. He should have won another victory, but in the semi-finals, his opponent boxer Alva gave up the game due to injury, so he once again entered the American finals with 4 KOs. Today, Link will be here to meet Cuban local boxer Lorenzo Aragon, an elite boxer defeated by Ring Magazine, to defend the game. Link will win again. Please wait and see. Steve exhaled and took a sip of mineral water. The weather in Havana was too hot and humid, and it was even hotter inside. Wearing formal clothes to work felt like an earthquake. Steve, Link is out. Do you want to interview him? Cameraman Scene pointed to the east aisle. Amid the voices of the 10,000 spectators shouting Aragon must win, Link and his coaching team walked through the aisle. The interview area on both sides of the aisle was also crowded with people. There were 40 or 50 reporters following Link as he walked. Steve Mandanda took a deep breath, took the microphone and camera, squeezed into the middle of the group of reporters there, handed over the microphone and shouted loudly, "Link, I'm Steve, the host of HBO TV. I interviewed you at the American Airlines Arena last time. I have 2 questions for you." Link looked up at him and recognized this guy who loves to stir up trouble. Since HBO is a TV broadcast party and a broadcast channel for boxing events, boxers need to cooperate with HBO from creation to PPV rescue, so boxers generally give special care to reporters and hosts of HBO TV. Link did the same, slowing down his pace and asking, "Hello Steve, what's your question? How confident are you that you can beat your opponent Lorenzo Aragon? Can you express it in percentage?" Steve shouted with sweat on his face. 200%. Link said as he walked. "Wow." The reporters around him gasped. "Aragon will win." The Cuban citizens in the audience area next to him shouted loudly, killing the noise made by the reporters. "Link, I heard that you will continue to kill the game by KO. Do you have a tactic? Can you make it clear in advance?" Steve shouted. "Of course, my tactic is to knock him down with force." Link waved his fist towards the focus. "Link, I have another question." Facing tens of thousands of Cuban spectators on the scene, listening to them shouting in unison that Aragon will win, will you feel pressured? Steve shouted with a question added temporarily. Link smiled softly. "You should ask Aragon, will he feel any pressure to fight a guy who has KO'd his opponents 21 times in 21 fights? Steve thought about what Link said, and it seemed that it was indeed a worthwhile interview question. Link waved his fist, answered several questions from reporters, and escorted by Morales, Andre and others to the rest area under the boxing ring, waiting for the bell to ring. Chapter 63 Victory. Aragon will win. The Cuban audience continued to shout loudly. Someone in the audience held up the blue, white, and red Cuban flag and waved it vigorously. Someone placed several crocodile skin drums on the second floor and beat them vigorously. There was also a group of Cuban dancers who brought a unique song and dance performance to the audience in the open space in the middle, especially when a group of coolly dressed Cuban girls took the boxing ring, twisted their waists hard, and performed Cuban-style dances. The cheers on the scene almost lifted the roof off. "Aragon, don't be nervous, relax in the game. We have reached the Olympic qualification. Even if we lose, it's not a big deal, understand?" In the rest area of the boxing ring, Felix Savin was giving Aragon pre-match psychological counseling. For an elite boxer, only strong physical fitness and bonus technology are obviously not enough. There is another important boxing quality, mentality, which can also be called psychological quality, which can often become the key to a decisive battle. Boxers with good psychological quality can exert 100% or 120% of their strength during the competition. Boxers with poor psychological quality will be very anxious before the competition, and will have competition anxiety disorder, and will often perform abnormally after going on stage. For example, Tyson has a strong physique and violent fists, but it is generally believed that his psychological quality limits his development in boxing. In Tyson's career, he was defeated by James Douglas, Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Danny Williams, and Kevin McBride in his first fight, and he never had revenge again. In addition, in boxing matches, every time the game exceeds 5 rounds, Tyson will begin to become impatient, and the state will follow, which has a lot to do with psychological quality. Compared with Ali, Muhammad Ali's psychological quality is amazing. Ali was defeated by Joe Frazier, Ken Norton, Leon Spinks and others, but soon after, Ali defeated these opponents in the second fight. Ali's never give up spirit is also one of the reasons why he is called Tao. According to the research of Ali Boxing Ring magazine, boxers with strong psychological qualities like this are not only related to their personal growth environment, but also to their experience in participating in competitions. People who have participated in many large-scale competitions often have a good psychological quality, which is called competition experience in the boxing world. For example, boxing champions such as Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Holyfield, and Lennox Lewis have all participated in the Olympics. Tyson has participated in the Olympic trials, and is a 2-time US Youth Olympic boxing champion and the 1984 Golden Gloves heavyweight champion. These are all experiences of competitions. If a person who has no experience in competitions is allowed to watch, and suddenly someone goes to participate in a boxing ring competition surrounded by tens of thousands of people, his performance will definitely be outstanding. Lorenzo Aragon has participated in many large-scale boxing competitions such as the Olympics, the World Championships, and the Pan American Games, so his psychological quality will naturally not be bad. But the problem is that this is the first time Aragon has participated in a large-scale boxing competition in Cuba. In view of this consideration, Felix Savin decided to do more psychological counseling for his disciple before the game to prevent him from having competition anxiety. Felix, don't worry, I will definitely beat that guy and win the America's Championship. Lorenzo Aragon wiped the sweat from his head with a towel. Stop. Please stop thinking like this, Lorenzo. Savin pressed Aragon's shoulder, rubbed his dark eyes and said, remember my requirements. I don't ask you to win the America's Championship. My requirement is not to get hurt. Protect yourself, understand? I understand, but I will definitely win. Savin patted his shoulder and silently encouraged him. Come on Aragon. Aragon will win. The Cuban boxers around shouted with their fists. Link, don't be too nervous. Really don't be too nervous. We have already obtained the Olympic quota. The game can be won or not. You need to do and can complete the game, whether you win or lose. In the red rest area, Coach Ed was doing ideological work for Link again, and there was nothing new in his words. All the same old stuff. Link glanced at Ed, who was sweating profusely, and said with a smile, Ed, I understand. You are the one who needs to be nervous. You only have 8 minutes to go to the competition. Maybe you can go to the toilet and wait for you to come back to know the result. Of course, you don't have to go to know it, because there is only one result. I'm the champion. Coach Ed laughed. After decades of boxing coaching and more than 10 years of experience as a national team boxing coach, Link is the strangest boxer he has ever seen. This guy debuted less than 2 months ago, and before the qualifying round, he had only experienced more than 10 amateur matches. But at that time, the psychological quality he showed in the performance was surprisingly strong. No matter how big the competition was, no matter how strong the opponent was, he was always so confident, always so relaxed, and always arrogant. Ed studied for several days, but still couldn't figure out how a new boxer like him could have such a good, even abnormal psychological quality. After analysis by his colleagues, everyone felt that he should be a performative personality. The bigger the scene, the more relaxed he could be. He was a material for being a star. Okay, since you're not nervous, I'm fine. Come on. Coach Ed patted him on the shoulder. Come on Link. Link will win. Morals. And as Edge and others clenched their fists and shouted at him. Ding, ding, ding. The opening bell rang. Link put on his braces, took off the thermal blanket on his body, moved his arms a few times in a cart-like posture, and ran and jumped. Aragon will win. Aragon champion. Walking onto the boxing ring, the audience's shouting was even louder and deafening at this time, but Link had no visual fear in his heart. A truly strong person is from the inside out. Even if a person faces thousands of enemy troops, when his heart is strong enough, thousands of troops are like grass. Link. Suddenly, a fierce, high-pitched, and even slightly broken shout came from the stands. Champion. A group of people followed and shouted. Link turned around and saw Fatty James holding a red flag in the middle of the second floor of the audience, waving it vigorously in the air. Next to him sat hundreds of people wearing red t-shirts, including Daniel, Michael, Rezas, Franco Duva, and many familiar faces. They stood among the Cubans, waving their arms, walking like a river, with very exaggerated movements. Link. Fatty James waved the flag and shouted champion. The group of people raised their arms and waved exaggeratedly again. Link laughed, raised his fist, and waved at them. Aragon. Champion. The Cuban audience was very dissatisfied with their voices being suppressed by the Americans, and they also shouted in unison. Link smiled lightly and looked at his opponent Lorenzo Aragon, who was walking towards him. Chapter 64 Tactics. Before going on stage, Link had asked himself many times in his heart if he had been in the Golden Gloves before and met Lorenzo Aragon, whether he could beat him, and whether the answer was certain. By then, even if he had rich competition experience, he was far inferior to Aragon in terms of physical condition and boxing skills. In terms of his current growth rate, his physical condition was about 2 years behind Aragon. Link also asked himself, if he met Aragon in the total score of the Golden Gloves competition, could he beat him? And the answer was no. Aragon was much better than Andre Berto, who had won the World Championships Boxing Championship and the Olympic 69 kg silver medal. He was an excellent boxer who was unique in all aspects, and much better than himself who had only recovered for 2 months. If he met him in the Golden Gloves, he would definitely lose. But now Link was full of confidence in defeating Aragon. This confidence was not the RQ spirit, not something metaphysical, but a real feeling. This feeling was accumulated little by little in this qualifying competition. In the first round of the qualifying round, I defeated and KO'd the Mexican fighter Matias Ezequiel Vargas Martin with my powerful punches and superb skills. In the second round of the qualifying round, I defeated and KO'd the Canadian boxer Dennis Ers with my airtight offensive rhythm and powerful strength. In the third round of the qualifying round, I timely discovered the injury of my opponent Rossini with my keen judgment and rich competition experience, and found his flaws, causing my opponent to give up the game in advance. In the fourth round, facing Peters, who has extremely high fighting ability and explosive defense, I smashed his chin with my fierce fists, and chiseled a hole in his iron wall defense, forcing him to surrender. In these 4 rounds, I successfully defeated my opponent through my own advantages and expertise without many wins. These victories have greatly improved my mentality and self-confidence. This process is growth. Compared with continuous training, the growth of strength and speed, the growth of mentality and belief are also very important for boxers. Because of the continuous victory, the mentality is constantly superimposed, which also gave Link the courage to face Lorenzo Aragon in the boxing ring, and the belief to defeat him. Link looked at Aragon opposite him and said softly, "Aragon, are you nervous?" Aragon opened his black and white eyes. "The one who should be nervous should be you. Don't forget that this is Cuba, my home court." No, I think you must be more nervous than me at this time. After all, what you want next is to KO all opponents, including Peters who almost tied with you, so you should be more nervous. Humph. Ridiculous. Aragon moved his nose disdainfully. Link smiled and said, "In addition to this, look at the audience seats around you. More than 10,000 Cuban people came to support you with national flags. How can they hope that you can defeat that American in Havana and keep the American championship in Cuba? If you achieve it, you will become a hero in the hearts of the Cuban people. If you don't achieve it, you know better than me what the consequences will be. So this time you must not fail, you must win. You can't let those who support you down. But your opponent is a very strong guy. You don't have 100% confidence to defeat him. You are afraid of failure, afraid that Aragon will open his eyes and chase him. Your fists unconsciously clenched, and the body on your body also consciously tightened. Did I guess right? You are nervous. Your mentality begins to become chaotic. Your mind begins to think wildly. If I guessed right about the infectious disease, you will lose the game. The masters fighting is often not like boxing, but presents the mentality. Your heart is already in chaos. How can you beat me? Shut up. Aragon said with gritted teeth. Aragon, don't listen to him. Don't be lied to by him. Sayon shouted under the ring. Link lost lightly. Sorry Aragon, if it was abroad, you might have won me, but in Cuba, you carry the hopes of too many people. You can afford it. You have decided the game. You are wrong. I will definitely beat you. I will at least get 30 points from you. Aragon bit his braces and said firmly, "Good luck." Link nodded. Seeing Aragon on the opposite side, Link couldn't help but think of the former Oriental flying man, who could achieve amazing results abroad, but couldn't even start normally in China. It was not only because of the leg injury, but more because he was under too much expectation and burden at the start. How could he fly? But it doesn't mean that Aragon is really sure to win, and he will definitely win. This is just a psychological tactic. Infinitely suppress the opponent's confidence and disintegrate the opponent's fighting spirit. Whether in the boxing ring or on the battlefield, the role referred to by this tactic is sometimes more glorious than the victory achieved on the front battlefield. Link naturally wouldn't think that he would win because of the anger and nervousness shown by Aragon. If he dared to think so, he would definitely lose. After all, Aragon is a person who has experienced many competitions. How nervous is he at this time? Is he really nervous or pretending to lure the enemy? Before the game, you can't make a hasty judgment based on the opponent's expression. What you can do is to do your best to win the game cleanly, no matter what the opponent is in. Come on, Link. Link clenched his fists. The referee came across the ring, checked the equal competition equipment, and announced the rules of the competition. Eragon must win. Eragon champion. The audience shouted loudly, and the cheers were deafening. Come on, Link. Jin cheered for Eragon, and the sound was more monotonous and loose. Guys, how about trying harder and being louder? Fatty James waved a flag, and shouted on the second floor stand. No, I'm going to quit. I've been shouting for so long, my throat is about to smoke. Let's take a break. Daniel sat down for a while, and gulped down a bottle of mineral water. James, Link just needs to know that we are here to support him, so there's no need to shout so loudly. Besides, there are more than 10,000 Cubans here, with more than 100 of us. How can we shout more than them? Michael sat on a chair and fanned himself with his sun hat. The others were similar. After shouting dozens of times with the Cuban audience, one was dry-mouthed, his voice was hoarse, and he didn't have much strength to shout anymore. Well, this is all we can do. The rest depends on Link. James frowned and looked at the ring and said, "Don't worry, Link will definitely win." Franco Duva also smiled while looking at the boxing ring. "Catherine, do you think Link can win?" On the first floor of the audience, Selena Gomez took a few photos of Link on the stage and didn't look at her aunt, Ms. Catherine Baker, who was talking to Anna. He has a record of 21 amateur victories and has never lost. Catherine looked at the boxing ring and said, "He may not lose. Look here, it's all Cuban audiences. Millions of people are cheering for Eragon. Link will feel very stressed when he hears their shouts. He will definitely. Oh, poor Link. I hope he won't cry after he loses." Selena Gomez looked at the tall and strong boy on the screen and secretly exclaimed in her heart that it was incredible. It's only been a few years since I last saw him. How could this guy grow so handsome? His face looked like it was carved out by a knife and an axe, and he even had 6 abdominal muscles. Is this guy really her unreliable gangster cousin? Link will never cry. Hearing someone talking next to her, Selena turned her head to the left. The person who was talking was a young girl sitting next to her. She was wearing a tight uniform with holes, a neat white uniform cap, and her golden hair was tied into a ponytail. Her skin was white and tender, her cheeks were a healthy pink, and there was an eyebrow fur bracelet on her wrist, and she had the temperament of an artistic young woman. What made Selena frown even more was that the girl had long and slender legs and was about 180 centimeters tall, so much taller than her. If she wanted to knock her forehead, she could just reach out and knock it. Selena has never had much good feelings for girls taller than her. How do you know? Link is a strong boy. Not only will he not cry, he will also defeat Eragon and become the champion of the Americas and the world champion. Taylor said with a clenched fist. Selena blinked her big eyes and understood a little bit. This girl is a diehard fan of her cousin. After not seeing each other for a few years, even Link has fans. It feels amazing. Chapter 65. Changing Fists. On the boxing ring, after the referee read out the rules, the match was about to begin. The shouts from the audience were like a cut-off waterfall, suspended with a splash, and turned into a pool of still water. More than 10,000 people at the scene opened their eyes wide and looked at the boxing ring illuminated by the lights. 2 men in shorts and a set of gloves, one with a nearly black appearance, like black iron when walking, and the other with bronze skin, cut open and broken, like C4 explosives hidden under the skin, full of explosive power. The host in a black suit stood in the middle and swung his arm. Boxing. Link and Eragon's arcs touched the gloves, and they both quickly and stiffly withdrew a step, keeping a distance of more than 1 meter. But time was limited. Link stepped forward and took the initiative to punch Eragon. He did not use his arm to block Eragon's fist. When the fist came, he flexibly turned his head and noticed Link's fist. The action was very clever. Wow. The audience was about to exclaim, "Win." The Cuban audience shouted excitedly. Link threw 3 punches in a row, but his opponent dodged them all. However, he was not disappointed. Aragon was a boxer with fast movements and reactions, and he wanted to hit the opponent with one punch. He started to approach Aragon again, and delivered the fourth and fifth punches. Almost at the same time, Aragon also swung his fist towards his head. His most skilled right jab was no slower than his. He swung his left arm to block. Bang! Aragon's straight punch hit his elbow, and Link's arm shook and invisibly shrank a few centimeters. From this punch, it can be seen that Aragon's strength is not small, a little stronger than Morales's, and the weight is comparable to Peters's fist. For ordinary boxers, the power of the fist can be regarded as a heavy artillery punch. When he blocked Aragon's jab, Aragon followed with a straight punch, and killed him in the face. Link swung his left arm to block again, and at the same time, swung his right fist to kill Aragon's jaw. Bang! Aragon used his arms to block his fist, and once again took the opportunity to punch his head, but Link swung his fist to break the block. In the first 80 seconds of the first round, Link threw more than 50 punches, but none of them hit Aragon's effective parts. Aragon threw more than 60 punches, but none of them hit him once. The two sides kept punching and kicking, and kept dodging, and the fight was hard to tell. The audience exclaimed one after another. Link's swift jab was again dodged by Aragon. He took a step back and secretly admired that Aragon was worthy of being Aragon. His skills, speed, reaction, etc. were not inferior to his own. He was even better than him in skills and dodging. When encountering such an opponent, he defeated him with conventional methods in the round moon, which was extremely difficult. Now he could only try extraordinary methods. Link looked up at his fists and attacked Aragon again. Aragon did not retreat either, and swung a swift jab and chopped over. HBO host Steve exclaimed to the camera. After the match started, Link and Aragon kept attacking and defending, throwing punches several times in a row, but all of them were dodged and blocked by the opponent. This is definitely a match between world-class top masters. All boxers should come to watch the match. Link told reporters before the match that he would continue to kill the competition by knocking out his opponents and enter the Olympic Games. Previously, Aragon was also his KO target, but the first round was about to end, and Link had not hit Aragon with a punch. With the remaining 3 Aragons, could Link knock out Aragon and win the match? Let's interview the editor-in-chief of the Herald Pioneer newspaper on the spot. Wow. Steve was holding a pistol, preparing to go to the front row of Rafael Varane, when suddenly there was a scream from the audience, which was clearer and louder than the previous scream. Steve turned around quickly and saw that in the brightly lit boxing ring, Link and Aragon each took 3 steps back. Link's back hit the corner post of the boxing ring. Aragon staggered and took 3 or 4 steps back smoothly. When he was about to fall, his right arm was stiffly hung on the ropes. What happened? Steve was very hurt. He had not been concentrating on watching the game just now. Judging from the situation on the boxing ring, there had been a fierce physical conflict between the two sides. Who won? How did the conflict happen? The orange cat was scratching. Not only him, but many spectators who had not been concentrating on watching the game just now were also looking around curiously. There are replays of the game there. Cameraman Scene pointed to the screen on the referee's bench. Steve hurried forward and watched the replay. Because the opponent's punching speed was too fast, the referee used the 4x slow motion mode to watch. Just now, Link and Aragon on the stage continued to exchange punches. You attacked and I defended, and neither of us could hit the effective parts of the opponent. At 92 seconds in the first round, the situation on the stage suddenly changed. On the screen, Aragon stabbed Link in the face with a fast and fierce jab. When everyone thought that Link would dodge by turning his head flexibly like the previous few times, Link made an amazing move. He leaned forward slightly and did not care about the fist coming from the opposite side. He swung his right fist and swung it violently from the southwest. Back throw! Exclamation mark. Steve exclaimed in surprise. He had seen this move in the Golden Gloves rescue. Bang! When Aragon's jab hit Link's side face, Link's back throw also hit Aragon's cheekbone with a bang. In the 4x slow playback, after Link was hit by the punch, his head shook to the right, and a string of crystal sweat swung out of his short black hair. And his back throw also hit Aragon almost at the same time. Aragon's skin showed oscillating ripples, and the sweat and saliva on his face were also thrown out. Bang out. The video playback suddenly returned to normal speed. Link and Aragorn retreated shoulders. Link hit the southwest corner post, and Aragorn retreated his brother, and hung on the ropes. Too exciting. Steve was stunned and very excited. If Link and Aragorn fought like this, the broadcast ratings of the game in his heart would definitely be very high, and he would get more bonuses. Link must win. Link, another punch. The audience roared excitedly. Come on, Aragorn, beat that American to death. Long live Cuba. The enthusiastic Cubans drowned out the shouts of James and others with just one roar. In the ring, Link stood up straight, looked at Aragorn on the opposite side, and smiled gently. Aragorn's jab mainly hits the arm, and the arm is cut off. The maximum force is 800 pounds. After being cut off by the gloves and protective gear, the impact strength of his body is less than 100 pounds. Then the main parts of the cut punch are the back, chest muscles, arms, and neck. The cut groups are more, and the force is greater. The punch just now was at least 1,200 pounds. After being cut, the impact force on Aragorn's head was close to 200 pounds. This time, he took advantage of the change of punches. This way of changing punches is also an unconventional way of competition that Link just thought of. Moves are often used in underground boxing rings. People don't compete in technology or dodge during the game, but only compete in the body, to see who has thicker blood. This kind of competition method is very harmful to boxers, but the visual effect is very good and looks very exciting. Those who dare to use this kind of moves in competitions are more likely to receive advertisements from various clubs. Link had fought several times before, and was covered with bruises in the end. I don't know why he didn't want to use this move in amateur competitions, but Aragorn was too fast, not slower than himself at all, and his skills were equal to his own. His combination punches, defense, and ability to resist blows were not worse than his own. In this situation, it was difficult to beat Aragorn within the 4 circles, let alone KO him. When he was in trouble, Link thought of the Shan-Ji horse racing in the elementary school textbook, using his own superior horse against the enemy's inferior horse. After dozens of fights, Link found that the only thing he was better than the opponent was the weight of his punches. When he burst out with all his strength, his punches could reach more than 1,500 pounds, which Aragorn could not match. In order to make good use of this superior horse, Link decided to take risks, exchange injuries for injuries, and use back throws for the opponent's jabs. Judging from the situation of this fight, the plan was relatively successful. Aragorn stood up on the other side, raised his fists, looked at him coldly, and was taken away by the black iron, sweating hotly. Link thought that his current situation was probably similar. He gasped and looked at Aragorn coldly. Chapter 66. Provocation. Boxing. The referee came over and waved his arm. The match continued. Link raised his head and thrust his fists forward, approaching Aragorn little by little, without fear. Aragorn held his arms up, moving his arms up and down, and constantly changing his feet. Seeing his opponent's posture like this, Link knew that his opponent was more solid and more defensive. He first responded with the move of exchanging injuries for injuries again, with a greater peak. In boxing matches, another meaning of defensive defense is the fighting style tends to be more intense, at least more intense than the first 100 seconds. The opponent was ready to strengthen his defense, and Link's method was to continue attacking, and then hit the opponent with a heavy punch. He swung his right fist directly to Aragorn's head. Aragorn leaned back to pay attention to his fist, and at the same time, he attacked Link's attack from left to right with a left hook. Ignoring the opponent's impending left hook, Link swung his right uppercut almost at the same time, hitting Aragorn's chin. The main force of the uppercut is the waist and biceps, which requires fewer action groups and less power, but the attack distance is short and the speed is fast. If the uppercut and the swing are launched at the same time, the uppercut usually hits the target first. At this time, Link's uppercut was launched a little slower than the opponent's swing. He had no conclusion whether it could hit the target first, but he scanned the road and tried to sense it. They are going to switch punches again. The audience exclaimed loudly. Just when everyone thought that the opponent was going to charge fiercely again, Aragorn suddenly took a step back, retracted his left swing, and also noticed his uppercut, and chose a more defensive style of play. The audience booed in disappointment. Link looked at Aragorn on the opposite side and smiled lightly. Boxing is called the sport of the brave. Aragorn actually retreated at the critical moment, which means that the opponent has concerns in his heart and dare not fight hard. This is a good phenomenon. Link raised his head and took the initiative to approach Aragorn with his fist, seeking a close fight. Dang dang. The first round is over. Link returned to the red team's rest area. In this round, both sides had to concentrate fully. Both the spirit and the person being checked were in an extremely tense state. After a game, the whole body was shaking. After a mask, Link sat down on the round stool and accepted the services of Morals and Ender's Edge, including massage, water feeding, and sweat wiping. However, the two grown men were clumsy, and how could they serve others? Link, you did a good job. Just do it like this. Take your time. Don't be too impatient. Although Coach Ed had participated in many boxing matches, it was rare to hear a duel between boxers of such high level as Link and Aragorn. Whether in terms of technology or other aspects of the team, they were evenly matched, so Coach Ed didn't know how to give instructions. He could only say some encouraging words to cheer Link up. Link nodded and looked at Aragorn at the opposite corner. Coach Champion Felix was talking to Aragorn with a serious expression. No matter what he wanted to say, it was probably impossible to relieve the pressure on Aragorn. Although Aragorn said he was not nervous before the match, he was obviously nervous during the match. He was not decisive enough when attacking, nervous when retreating, and his fighting style was not as flexible as before. Link believed that at the end of the match, if Aragorn failed to incite the chance of winning, he would become more nervous. What Link needed to do was to disrupt his rhythm and find opportunities to hit him hard, making him more nervous. After all, his goal was to KO him and destroy him, not simply defeat him. Time was short and the difficulty was high. Link could only move step by step, increase his advantages little by little, and magnify his opponent's disadvantages little by little. Ding ding ding. The second cycle began. Come on, Link. Link will win. James on the second floor led people to shout hard. Reggie and several apprentices in the boxing gym were also shouting, and their voices broke through the end of the Cuban audience and reached the boxing ring. Link waved his fist, walked to the middle of the boxing ring, and looked at Aragorn who was walking towards him. Aragorn's expression was calmer than before. It should be that many of Seon's ideological work had achieved results. Link, you should be very nervous at this time, right? Aragorn suddenly said coldly. His dark face made it difficult to see his psychological activities at this time. Link thought to himself, why am I nervous? Your goal is to KO all opponents and enter the Olympics. For boxers of our level, if we fail to achieve our goals, it means failure. A proud person like you will never accept failure, but now it has come to the second round. You tried your best, but only hit me with one punch. There is no way to knock me down. Aren't you nervous? Aragorn said with his white teeth bared. That makes sense, but so what? My failure only affects me, and you failed. You let an American win a victory on Cuban soil. This is not only a shame for you, but also a shame for Cuba. You will be hated by the Cuban people. Aragorn, are you nervous? I will not lose. Aragorn clenched his fists and stared at him coldly. Aragorn, if I were you, I would fight him to the death. I would rather die heroically in the boxing ring than watch the enemy attack. Are you afraid of death? Link stared at the other person's eyes. Aragorn bit his mouth guard seriously, and his arm trembled slightly. The referee walked to the middle of the opposite side. Boxing. Link glanced at Aragorn, shouted angrily, and raised his fist to hit the other person's head. Aragorn's face was dark, and he blocked his straight punch with his left arm. He swung his wrist and hit Link fiercely. Almost at the same time, Link raised his biceps and pulled his forearm away. A simple and direct left uppercut punch pierced Aragorn's chin from bottom to top. This time the situation was similar to the last time. Last time Aragorn gave in, but this time, look. The audience widened their eyes. Bang! Link and Aragorn were punched almost at the same time. Link was hit by Aragorn's punch, and his body staggered 2 steps to the left quickly and leaned against the ropes. His left hook also arrived first, hitting Aragorn's chin hard. This punch had more than 1,000 pounds of force. With the double protection of the protective gear and gloves, Aragorn's chin was hit by more than 20 pounds of impact. His body couldn't help but lift up a little, and he took 4 or 5 steps back and hit the corner post hard. Wow. There was an exclamation from the audience. No one expected that such a simple two people would exchange punches. Their behavior was rough, not at all like the two boxing masters in the competition. Before, it was a gangster fight. You punch me and I punch, and every punch hits the flesh. This is almost a fight to the death. Why do they do this? Rafael Varane shook his head and replied, the overall strength of the two of them is comparable. If they compete in the usual way, no one can beat the other in 4 circles. They are eager to win the championship. At this point, the opponent can only exchange injuries to see who can last longer. This is crazy. How can they participate in the Olympic Games if they are injured? At this point, they don't care about that. They knocked down their opponents and won the game. They are fighting for honor. They are all real fighters. Rafael Varane waved his fist. Rafael, who do you think will win? Steve took the microphone. Rafael looked at the boxing ring and shook his head. When masters fight, victory or defeat is often decided by 2 punches. It's too early to say who will win or lose at this time. Chapter 67 Knockdown. On the boxing ring, Link stood up while holding the ropes and touched his face with his gloves. The dizziness in his head gradually disappeared. Just now, his hook hit Aragorn first, causing Aragorn's punching position to be a little strange and deviated, and the impact from his head was also reduced by 20% to 30%, so this round was almost a draw. Aragorn on the opposite side did not wait for the referee to come over and ask, and immediately stood up straight, looking at Link coldly, with blood at the corner of his mouth and a bit more murderous on his face. Come again. Link shouted angrily. His arms were pulled away, and his shoulders were bulging. The whole person was violent and violent, like a Mongolian man who was overwhelmed by blood. He shouted and punched Aragorn. Aragorn also stared, roared, and the neck valuation came, and punched Link. The two put down their defenses, collided with each other, and punched each other one by one. Exclamation mark. In just 20 seconds, Link threw 38 punches and Aragorn threw 36 punches, almost 1 punch for 1 punch. When the referee separated the two sides, Link had a trace of blood on the corner of his mouth, and Aragorn had a bleeding nose. He covered his right ribs, bent his waist slightly, and had a painful expression on his face. The audience was stunned by the sudden outbreak of fierce fighting. Can boxing matches still be fought like this? Many spectators stood up and cheered loudly for the boxer on the left. Wow, is boxing so exciting? Catherine, look, Link is injured. Selena Gomez stared at the boxing ring with wide eyes. At first, she saw each other dodging and only hitting each other once in the first round, which seemed meaningless. Just now, she saw the other side suddenly collided with each other and punched each other fiercely, punching each other hard, which looked really exciting. Telephone. Catherine hurriedly made room with her bag. Selena glanced at her back, sniffed, and said that she didn't mind Link. She couldn't bear to see Link injured in the game. She was a woman who said one thing but meant another. Suddenly she found that the tall girl next to her was also lying on the armrest of the wheelchair, covering her eyes, and kept asking the middle-aged man in the wheelchair if he had no eyes after the fight. Did Link win? Wow, how did Link get knocked down? It's so tragic. I dare not watch it. Selena shouted in an exaggerated voice. The tall girl immediately sat up and looked at the boxing ring nervously. Link was standing there with a strange smile on his face. Taylor turned around and glared at the annoying little girl angrily. The little girl was of Latin descent, with wheat skin, petite figure, a chubby baby face, round eyes, and wrinkled skin at the corners of her mouth. She looked like she deserved a beating. Selena smiled triumphantly and turned her head away from her eyes. The noble match was so exciting, even more exciting than professional boxing. It's worth it to come here every time. Mr. Swift patted the wheelchair in admiration. In the past, Link could defeat his opponent with just a few punches. How come he can fight for so long now? Will he get hurt? Taylor brushed the eaves of Star's mouth. It's different. The level of boxers in the Americas qualifiers is very high. All previous qualifiers have won the top 3 or even the championship in the Olympics. In the 2004 Athens Olympics, the Cuban boxing team won 5 golds, 2 silvers and 1 bronze, a total of 12 events. 5 of which ranked first and 8 ranked in the top 3. Do you know how high the level of the Cuban boxing team is? It's amazing to be able to get into the top 3 in the Americas qualifiers. Mr. Swift exclaimed. Dad, do you mean that if Link can beat Aragon, he may have a chance to win a gold medal in the Olympics? Taylor asked, tilting his head. It's very likely. Wow. Mr. Swift was talking when he suddenly screamed. His body unconsciously rushed upwards, and he almost stood up. At this time, not only Mr. Swift suddenly screamed wow wow, but tens of thousands of spectators at the scene also screamed wow wow. Time went back to 20 seconds ago. Link wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his boxing gloves and looked quietly at Aragon opposite. The fierce battle with Aragon just now almost made him think that he was back to the underground boxing ring where he had fought bloody battles before. He did not defend himself, regardless of life and death, and immediately eliminated his opponent in the most efficient way. Link was too familiar with this way of competition and was very skilled. Seeing Aragon fall into his own rhythm, he was not polite and used the fastest and most lethal combination punches to hit Aragon hard. Although he was also hit by a few punches, he believed that the trauma Aragon suffered was definitely several times his own. Aragon of Cuba, fight for honor, die for honor. Dare you come again? Link stepped forward, pounded his strong chest muscles with his boxing gloves, and roared loudly. Kill. Kill. Aragon bared his bloody teeth, roared at him, and swung his fists fiercely at his head. In an instant, Link's body was tightly bandaged, his mind was highly concentrated, and even his hair stood up vertically. When Aragon's fist came, he did not block it like before, but turned his head sharply, narrowly avoiding Aragon's murderous right swing. Be careful. Someone shouted from the audience. Aragon heard a sound of breaking air from the left, and saw a smear of pink in the corner of his eye coming towards his head. It was Link's fist. Aragon was shocked and raised his head hard, trying to notice this sudden punch, but it was too late. When he was about to raise his head, Link's fist had already hit his face steadily, at the position of his left chin. Bang! The whole action suddenly accelerated, and Aragon was hit by the scene, and his body suddenly turned half a circle on the spot. Bang! He fell sideways, and landed heavily on the floor, his body making a loud induction sound with the rubber plate of the ring. Everyone knew that Link's backflip was very powerful, and they needed to defend against it when competing with him, but no one expected that he would use it at this time. At the same time, no one expected that Aragon, who had dodged many of Link's killer moves in the first round, would not be able to dodge it this time, and was knocked to the ground by Link. The first knockdown. Wow. Great. Link, you are incredible. Morales, and Edge and others were so excited that they roared to the sky under the boxing ring. Link must win. Link champion. In the audience, James waved a red flag, and Michael, Reggie and others jumped up and down, shouting loudly without hesitation. Taylor, Mr. Swift, Selena, and hundreds of European and American tourists at the scene all cheered loudly for Link, cheering for this wonderful punch, and cheering for the first knockdown. Great. This punch is so great. It not only shows Link's superhuman punching weight and superhuman speed, but also shows his high IQ in boxing. Why should such a talent sign with Little Duva? There is also a group of special people in the audience. They are boxing promoters who exist wherever there is a boxing match. The American qualifying tournament brings together top boxing masters from all over the Americas. For such a grand event, they are naturally in the front row of the audience area. Dmitry Salater, the promoter of the Arena Promotion Company, watched Link knock down Aragon cleanly, clapping excitedly for a while, and patting his back depressedly for a while. That's right, Link has a very high KO rate, and every boxing match he participates in is very exciting. In the future, when he turns to professional boxing, there will definitely be many people willing to support and spend money. It's a pity that he was signed by Little Duva and left. Frank Warren of Queensbury Boxing Promotions also said regretfully. Greg Cohen of Top Event Promotions also knelt on the boxing ring, frowning. Should we increase the income from the competition and give Link another chance to choose? Although this guy talks a lot, he is indeed a talent. If he can join top level competitions, the company will have one more person who can make money in the future. Chapter 68 The Second Knockdown. 10, 9, 8, 7 in the boxing ring. Aragon fell to the ground and struggled, squatting beside to count. Link leaned against the ropes, panting, his right arm hanging on the ropes. His biceps were exhausted tonight, and although the punch just now was used beautifully, it was too strong, and it was not too strong when it was fatal, resulting in a slight strain in the biceps and some tingling in the finger joints. Hearing the referee's count, he didn't want Aragorn to stand up in a second. It would be better if he lay down all the time, lying for more than 10, but Aragorn has good physical fitness and high resistance to blows. This punch will definitely not solve him. The referee counted to 5, and Aragorn man supported himself on the ground and slowly stood up. He staggered and stabilized his body by holding the ropes. He turned his head, his short and fat nose was breathing heavily, and he looked at Link angrily. Link knew where his anger came from. Before, both of them agreed to fight for honor and die for honor. Link suddenly dodged and threw a backhand punch. Aragorn felt that he was deceived and was naturally very angry. But Link didn't think he did anything wrong. The boxing ring is a battlefield. Being kind to the opponent is cruel to yourself. Even a 3-year-old child knows this truth. In the first round, compared with Aragorn, he didn't have the advantage of mirror, so he had to adopt the third-rate tactics of fighting for punches and injuries for injuries. After more than half a round of fighting, Aragorn's defense and physical strength were desecrated, and the game fell into his own rhythm. When Link found that he had mastered the method of severely injuring Aragorn, he naturally would not use a fighting method that would hurt both sides, so he punched Aragorn. This punch woke Aragorn up. Only a sober person would be angry. This anger was also the emotion that Link saw. Aragorn, fight for honor. Do you dare to come again? Link shouted. Aragorn stared at him, with fierce eyes in the corners of his eyes, and the anger on his face was like substance. Just as Aragorn was about to attack with anger, the bell for the end of the second round rang. Link came to the rest area and asked Morals to help massage his right arm to relieve the pain. Across from him, Aragorn sat on a round stool with a dark face, and the team doctor helped him treat the wound on his abdomen. Aragorn, don't exchange punches with Link anymore. Our Cuban boxing advantage lies in speed and technique, not strength and physique. If you exchange punches with him and trade injuries for injuries, you will fall into his game rhythm, and in the end, you will inevitably win. Before the game started, he was more confident in the game. He thought that, although Link was very powerful, his overall strength was worse than Aragorn's, and Aragorn had a great chance to win points and defeat Link. When the game started, Aragorn and Link exchanged punches 4 times, and there was no winner. This stage was not bad. But the next game was chaotic. Link wanted to trade injuries for injuries, and Aragorn followed suit. Link wanted to give up defense and attack each other. Aragorn continued to fight, completely following Link's rhythm. Until just now, after seeing Aragorn completely fall into the trap, Link, like an experienced hunter, immediately used his killer move and threw a punch, which really pitted Aragorn once. Sometimes, Seon also admired Link and his group. Their use of boxing tactics and their understanding of the people were very exquisite and unique, and they didn't look like 20-year-old young people at all. And the ferocity he showed when fighting. First of all, he was a veteran in black boxing, not a new boxer who had just debuted. Seon didn't know where Link came from. Now all he could do was to warn Aragorn a few more words and let him not fall into Link's trap again. I understand. Next I will follow my own rhythm and do my best to defeat Link Baker. Aragorn clenched his fists and said firmly. Seon sighed. Aragorn, I said don't care too much about winning or losing. It doesn't matter if you lose the game. Our focus is on the Olympics. You can't get hurt. Now your ribs and choke are injured by Link. If the situation gets more serious, your Olympic journey will end here. Do you understand? Aragorn danced in silence and nodded. Ding ding. The bell for the third round rang, and Link and Aragorn walked to the center of the ring. Aragorn referee. He verbally attacked me. As soon as Link opened his mouth, Aragorn complained to the official. According to the rules of the boxing match, during the match, boxers from both sides are not allowed to talk on the stage or use verbal attacks, but the rules are not too strict. As long as the opponent does not object, the referee will not intervene too much. The referee came through to give Link a warning and announce the start of the round robin match for the third time. Link shook his head, and Aragorn stopped communicating with him, asking him to prepare, that psychological tactics could not be used, and now he could only fight hard. But fortunately, after 2 rounds of hard fighting, Aragorn's strength, physical strength, and ability to withstand blows were all crushed. The opponent's superior horse became a middle horse, and his own middle horse became a superior horse. The advantage is mine. After the game started, Link did not dare to rest, and immediately punched Aragorn. Aragorn raised his arms to block his head, and kept moving, adopting a strict defense tactic. Aragorn was strong, his arms were as solid as stone, and his ability to resist blows was not much inferior to that of the Haitian Peters. Moreover, he was black, and had a small head. When he used his arms to protect his head, he wanted to give him a fatal blow, but Link liked to do what he encountered the most. He swung his fists and hit Aragorn's arms, chest and abdomen one after another. If it was in the first circle, when Aragorn was in his prime, Link broke through his defense, and the entrance was no worse than breaking through Peter's iron wall. But in the first 2 circles, Aragorn had a hook, a back fist, and was knocked to the ground, which consumed a lot of his body and mind. This was also the stage when Aragorn was relatively weak, and it was also the perfect time to attack him. Link endured the stinging pain in his right arm, which was a sign of being pulled, and launched numb attacks again and again at Aragorn's double-arm defense line. After 10 punches, 23 punches, Link's arms began to numb. After the 32nd punch, bang, Link hit Aragorn's left shoulder with a straight punch, and Aragorn staggered. A gap suddenly appeared in the defense line. Good opportunity. Link instantly launched a left jab, breaking through Aragorn's defense line, and hit Aragorn's face at a wonderful angle. Aragorn was hit and staggered. He unconsciously took a step back, and the front door suddenly opened. Good opportunity. Link swung his fist, pressing Aragorn's arm. Straight punches, jabs, hooks, and hit Aragorn's side face, forehead, and jaw one after another. Aragorn was hit, and was about to reach out to hug him, and perform the hugging tactic. How could Link give him a chance? He suddenly retreated half a step, and then hit Aragorn on the forehead with a right straight punch. Aragorn suddenly took 2 steps back vertically, sat on the ring, and slid smoothly. Wow. The audience exclaimed again. Come on, Link. Champion Link. Seeing Aragorn fall to the ground again, the people who supported Link on the scene also cheered excitedly. Link stood on the ring panting, and his right biceps immediately jumped. After the numbness disappeared, the stinging pain of being strained was pouring out little by little. Link could only clench his fists and fight the pain. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. The referee counted to 6, and Aragorn stood up again with difficulty, his body swaying from side to side, obviously not awakened from the previous fight. Come on, Aragorn. The Cuban audience stood up and shouted, hoping that Aragorn would hold on. Aragorn slowly stood up, walked with his quilt, and roared at Link. Link rushed forward with his fists, and took advantage of Aragorn's unstable state to attack with more than 20 punches in a row, making Aragorn retreat repeatedly. Aragorn knew how powerful he was, so he protected his head with his fists, and dodged all over the ring. Come on, Link. Link is the champion. When Link walked back to the rest area, many people cheered loudly in a hoarse voice. Link waved his fists, and sat down on the round stool. The sweat on his body had already wet his waist. Link, your right arm is seriously injured. Don't use your forehead anymore. We have already won. In the first 3 rounds, you knocked down Aragorn twice, causing him to have double numbers. In terms of points, we are also higher than him. In the next round, you just need to solve the problem and the game will end, and we will win. Coach Ed said with ice on his arm. Link shook his head and said, my goal is to KO. As long as the opponent is still standing, I will never give up attacking. But your arm, if you continue to fight like this, it will affect the Olympics. Coach Ed frowned. It doesn't matter, win the game first. Link said in a firm voice. Opposite, the atmosphere in the blue team's rest area was a bit tense and heavy. Aragorn was knocked down twice in the first 3 rounds, which was far beyond Seon's expectations. Before the game, he thought a lot, and designed many tactics for Aragorn against Link, but when it came to the game, the rhythm of the game was led by Link from the beginning. By the third round, the game had changed beyond recognition, beyond Seon's imagination, and none of those events were used. There was only one round left in the game. Aragorn was in a very bad state at this time. It would be difficult to kill Link and win the game. Aragorn, Link's right arm is injured. In the next round, you will defend with all your strength and try to drag the game to the end. It's best not to be hit by Link again. Your injuries can't be more serious. Seon persuaded. Aragorn looked at Link in the opposite corner angrily and nodded fiercely. As long as the game was trapped in the end, Link could not KO the decisive battle. Even if he won the game, it would not be a complete victory. He must not let this despicable guy succeed again. Ding ding. The last round of the game began. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Second Crown. Come on, President Aragorn. Aragorn, beat that American to death. The audience came up, and the Cuban audience shouted loudly. The Seattle match was relaxed and leisurely, but now their shouts were mixed with anger and complaints, because they could also see that Aragorn might lose to a damn American. Their voices also revealed disappointment with Aragorn. In the boxing ring, Link looked at Aragorn, who was walking across from him. The opponent clenched his fists, and his whole body was bandaged tightly, causing the sweat that had just been wiped off his black skin to come out again. There were bloodstains at the corners of his mouth, and his left jaw was red and swollen. The situation looked very bad. Link knew that his situation at this time was not much better than that of the opponent, especially the strain on his right arm affected his strength. If he wanted to continue to attack the opponent with both fists, it would become more serious. But no matter how difficult it was, he had to KO Aragorn at this point. Successfully KOing Aragorn, the champion seed of this Olympic Games and the elite among the elites, would not only make him the super middleweight champion of the Americas, but also greatly improve his experience and mentality. Link did not lose these benefits. What needs to be considered now is how to completely knock down Aragorn, who still has half a tube of blood left. Link thought for a moment, looked at Aragorn and said, Aragorn, you should know that you have lost the game. Even if you try to defend, you can't completely change the result. But you can choose to answer the last question. You can choose to continue to defend and hide like a terrified man, or like a warrior, use up your last anger, strength, courage, and will to launch a final attack on me. Maybe there is still a chance to turn defeat into victory. Even if there is no attack, you will fall like a martyr instead of being beaten by me like a terrified man. Aragorn, be a terrified man or a martyr, I will give you a chance. Link said with a serious expression. I haven't lost yet. Aragorn said with gritted teeth. With your current condition, I can beat you with one hand. Link waved his left fist and said lightly. Aragorn stared at him angrily, shaking his fist. Kill. Aragorn suddenly roared. His dark face gradually turned black and red, and he clenched his fist and hit Link hard. Link raised his eyebrows, shouted angrily, and raised his left fist to meet Aragorn. Wow. The audience couldn't help but exclaimed when they saw them fighting again. They were both injured, sweating profusely, and their steps were a little staggering. At this time, ordinary people would choose to defend, but they not only did not defend, but also dared to continue to attack. This tenacity and ruthlessness made people say, come on, Aragorn. The Cuban audience stood up, waved their fists and shouted loudly. Although they knew that Aragorn might lose, they saw that he was still fighting bravely at the last moment and charging at the damn American. Everyone couldn't help but cheer for him. Link, hold on. Link champion. James waved the flag and led a group of people to shout loudly. Although his voice was hoarse, every time Link punched, they would shout come on, as if they were accompanying Link. Dad, can Link win if he fights like this? Taylor clenched his fists and looked at the ring nervously. He saw Link holding his right arm to defend himself and only using his left arm to attack Aragorn. He was in a very bad condition. Taylor and everyone saw that Link's right arm might be damaged. It doesn't matter. Aragorn's condition is worse than his. Moreover, he attacked Aragorn 3 times in the first 3 rounds, causing the opponent to be in 3 seconds. As long as he holds on and resists Aragorn's attack, he has a great chance of winning the game. Mr. Swift also looked at the ring with a flushed face. He didn't dare to blink his eyes when he saw the opponent attacking and defending. He was afraid that, if he blinked his eyes, something would suddenly happen on the ring, and the most exciting part of the game would be lost. What if Link didn't hold on? Would he lose? Selena next door blinked her big eyes, clenched her fists, and put them on her chest, nervously watching the game on the stage, and listening to the commentary of Mr. Wheelchair in her ears. Link should be able to hold on. Wow. Mr. Swift straightened up and exclaimed. On the boxing ring, Aragorn suddenly roared and punched Link in the forehead. Link took 3 steps back, and his back hit the ropes, almost falling down. Come on, Aragorn. Aragorn, fight back. The Cuban audience also shouted excitedly, and some people swung drumsticks and hit the crocodile skin drum. The atmosphere on the scene suddenly became heroic, and Syria was excited. Aragorn did not disappoint the Cubans' expectations. He mustered up his last strength and punched Link, who was leaning on the ropes. The battle became tense and tragic. The game is under the limit of 50 seconds. Aragorn is going to succeed in counter-killing? I understand. Aragorn showed weakness in the first 3 circles, letting Link underestimate the enemy, and then exploded in the last circle, successfully counter-killing Link. Good deployment. Aragorn is worthy of being the elite among the elites. It was probably Savin's tactics. Savin is worthy of being a 3-time Olympic gold medalist. In the audience, promoters such as Dmitry Salita were also holding binoculars, nervously watching the match on the ring. The main reason was that the match on the ring was too intense. As outsiders, they were surrounded by this atmosphere. Link is still too young and lacks experience in competitions. After 2 more years of training, he may have a chance to defeat Aragorn. Greg Cohen concluded. Promoters took the lead in various places. Aragorn was 25 years old, and Link was 20 years old. In 5 years, when they thought that the 20-year-old Link could almost tie with the 25-year-old Aragorn, they felt that Link was indeed very powerful. Wow. Suddenly there was a burst of loud exclamations. Even several promoters could not help but exclaim, and the drums on the scene suddenly disappeared at this time. Everyone looked at the boxing ring in shock. Some could not believe that they were on the boxing ring 10 seconds ago. Link was panting, his eyes looking at Aragorn opposite. After more than a minute of fighting, the consumption of physical strength and willpower was very large. When Aragorn stood on the stage, his eyes were half closed and half open, his body swaying from side to side. The frequency of his punches was bound to decrease, and his strength dropped to less than 500 pounds, with almost no killing power. Link knew the time had come. He took a deep breath, put his right arm in front of him, swung his left fist at Aragorn. Aragorn blocked his fist with his right arm, and swung his left fist towards his face. Coach Ed yelled from the audience, "Be careful!" Exclamation mark. A loud roar suddenly erupted from the opposite corner. Aragorn didn't understand why Savin shouted to be careful. Link's left fist had been blocked by him, and his injured right arm was blocking in front of him. What should he be careful of at this time? Aragorn saw that his fist was about to hit Link's face, and he was very excited. If he could hit it stably, he would have a great chance to knock Link down, or even completely KO Link, win the game, become the champion of the Americas, and become a Cuban boxing star. He suddenly found that Link's wrist, which was often blocking his chest, was gone. He was shocked, and heard bursts of breaking air in his ears. A red fist slammed over. Back throw. Aragorn's eyes widened, and his eyelids seemed to be split. He swung his fist at Link. As long as he hit Link first, everything would have a chance. Bang. Before he could think about it, Link's right back throw came first, with fierce speed and power, like a battering ram, and hit him hard on the side of his face. Aragorn's eyes quickly changed. Sweat, tears, and saliva flew from his face. His head hit his upper body. His upper body pulled out his legs, and he fell heavily to the right side of the ring. Bang. Link was also hit by Aragorn's fist and staggered, sitting on the boxing ring. Wow. There were bursts of exclamations at the scene. Wow. This punch is great. So incredible. Link's wrist can still move. He must have done it on purpose. This is his tactic. He followed Aragorn, and fought hard before, just to find a chance to throw the last punch. Link is great. On the second floor audience seats, Mr. Swift waved his fist and shouted excitedly. Taylor also screamed excitedly a few times, suddenly turned his head in surprise, looked up and down at Mr. Swift, and exclaimed, "Dad, how did you stand up? Is your paralysis healed?" Mr. Swift looked down at his brother's wheelchair and thought to himself that it was urgent. He was so excited just now that he forgot to pretend and stood up accidentally. He coughed lightly and said in surprise, "Oh, how did I stand up? My legs can move. Is my paralysis healed? Wow, this is amazing." In order to prove that his paralysis is indeed cured, Mr. Swift stamped his feet on the spot, and his legs were more flexible than those of a healthy person. Taylor raised the corners of his mouth and quickly congratulated his father. He asked his assistant Emily to call Lady Andrea and tell her the good news. Selena Gomez next door stared at Mr. Wheelchair with round eyes. She was twice as shocked as the father and daughter. Watching boxing matches can actually cure paralysis? Is it true? She grabbed her Aunt Catherine's arm and said excitedly, "Catherine, look, Mr. Wheelchair has stood up. He just saw Link knock down Aragorn with one punch, and suddenly he stood up and could walk with his legs. Don't you think it's amazing?" Catherine looked at Mr. Wheelchair and nodded. She said it was amazing and turned to look at the boxing ring. On the boxing ring, Link covered his aching right arm and slowly stood up. Not far away, Aragorn was lying on the ring sideways. The referee squatted beside him and began to count the seconds. The audience in the square was shouting loudly, "Aragorn, stand up, and come on, Aragorn." But Aragorn lay there motionless. Link didn't know whether Aragorn had fainted or not, but it didn't matter. There were still 50 seconds left. Aragorn's physical strength, power and fighting spirit had been aged in the previous attack. Even if he could stand up, he was sure to knock him down again. As far as the current situation was concerned, all his men were top-notch horses. How could he lose? Point 3, 2, 1. After the referee counted 10 times, Aragorn failed to stand up. The scene was quiet for 2 seconds, and the audience suddenly burst into warm applause. Even many Cubans applauded. Even if Aragorn, who was defending the game, lost, he lost on the way to charge. Bal's efforts were not to shrink and defend, and passively take a beating. In the minds of the aggressive Cubans, this was a tragic confrontation. Aragorn tried his best to attack his opponent, and finally fell on the ring. Although he lost, he was still honorable. So Link's last words to Aragorn were not all tactics. He also wanted to give his opponent a decent face. "Link, you won. You beat Aragorn. You are the champion." Morals and Edge and the boxing team and coaching team shouted excitedly in the audience. "Link." Fatty James shouted while waving a red flag on the second floor railing. "Champion. Link. Champion." Taylor, Mr. Swift, Selena, Catherine, Franco Duva, Reggie and others stood up and shouted loudly, "Link champion." More than 1,000 European and American spectators and athletes who watched the game on the spot clapped and shouted for Link to win the championship. "Link champion. Link champion." The voices at the scene gradually became more and more consistent. Link was on the boxing ring, sweating and standing on the hood, facing the audience, with his left arm raised high. The tall and strong body, the deadly shadow arm, the firm and unyielding back, towering high on the boxing ring. Click. Simmons, a reporter from the Herald, captured this vivid scene on the film and printed it on the newspaper. He thought that soon, all Americans would see this photo and hear a name, the champion of the American Olympic qualifying tournament, Link Baker. It will be on the shelves on Friday. Please support it. Thank you. Chapter 70 after the game. Link, the newspaper you asked for. Thank you. On the beach in front of Baker's shop, the sun was shining brightly. The sea rolled up the blue seashore from time to time, washing the white sand. White water birds fluttered by the sea and paused on the tall and lush coconut tree crowns with the sea breeze. Link lay on the beach chair, opened his eyes, pushed up the sunglasses covering his face, and there was an extra newspaper in his arms. The Herald, Los Angeles Times, New York Post, American Express, Sun. Although it is convenient to browse news online with computers and mobile phones now, Link still prefers to read newspapers. Because the news sources in newspapers are more real and reliable and have credibility, the editors of the derivative news newspapers need to bear false responsibilities. and the news on the internet and so on. Even the words cannot be guaranteed to be correct, let alone the content of the news. The essence of their existence is to fool people and defraud traffic. In addition, the news in the print media has been checked and screened by the internal staff of the newspaper. They are all professional journalists, and they are more sensitive to news than ordinary people. They can use their professional knowledge and eyes to select some more real and valuable news from the news that is difficult to distinguish between true and false in the crowd, and present it in the newspaper media. Reading newspapers is also more efficient in obtaining information. Link is an athlete, and he is used to reading the newspaper from the entertainment and sports section. Recently, there are more entertainment and sports news in North America. Anne Hathaway publicly stated that she and her ex-boyfriend had not participated in each other's work at the end of last year. American Express today's headline: Angelina Jolie and Jennifer Aniston quarreled, and Brad Pitt was partial to the structure. New York Post today's headline: Fast and Furious 4 crew came to Miami Cinema City to shoot. Miami Herald Entertainment headline. In the sports section, several newspapers reported the news that the boxing match of the American Olympic qualifying tournament ended. According to reports, the boxing team performed generally in this Olympics, winning 4 of the remaining 28 places in the Americas, including the second place in the women's 51 kg class, the second place in the men's 91 kg class, the first and third place in the 81 kg class, and the first place in the 7 kg class. In the related news, Link's news in Havana was the hottest. Newspapers such as the Miami Herald and the American Express published articles praising Link's performance in the qualifying round, saying that his record of 5 wins and 5 KOs in 5 games was a miracle, which had never been done before, and would never be done in the future. The sports edition of the American Express commented directly that he was a man who is creating, and continues to create miracles. The newspapers also explained his game in detail, saying that he was excited from the first round to the end, and that all the opponents he met were amateur elites and boxers who had achieved excellent results in international competitions, including Mexico's second team Shire, says Ezequiel Vargas Martin, Canada's second team's first player Denis Urs, Cuba's second team's Rossini, Haiti's first player Peters, and Lorenzo Aragon, who was regarded as the elite among the magazine's elites by The Ring. They have all achieved results in international competitions such as the World Championships, Pan American Games, and World Youth Championships. Compared with them, Link is a newcomer who has only debuted for less than 2 months, but he defeated them one by one. Rafael Varane, editor-in-chief of the Miami Herald, said in a new commentary article that almost all the opponents Link encountered were elite boxers who were as strong as him, or even stronger than him, but after 5 rounds of competition, Link not only won all of them, but also KO'd all of them. This can only be said to be a miracle and a brilliant record. Raphael also analyzed the reasons for Link's victory in the article, believing that in addition to his own strong strength, there are 3 key factors. One is his high boxing IQ. His tactics in the boxing ring are very flexible. He can often change his tactics at any time according to the state of his opponent, and defeat the strong with the weak. For example, in the 4th round, he concentrated all his strength to attack Peter's weak points, and finally forced his opponent to surrender. In the 5th round, he played his high boxing IQ to the fullest. In the 1st round, he and Aragorn fought against each other for several times, but they could not break through the opponent's defense and score points on the opponent. At this time, ordinary boxers will become impatient and continue to attack hard, wasting time and energy in vain, but Link did not. He found the right time and used a strong back throw to exchange Aragorn's jab, completely disrupting the rhythm of the game. It was so wonderful. Link, the smart boy, took a big advantage. This move not only hit Aragorn's face hard, but also disrupted the rhythm of the game that Savin had set for Aragorn, and firmly controlled the rhythm of the game in his own hands. This was a wonderful punch, a key punch, and Link did a great job. Raphael praised this punch in the article, believing that this punch was more critical than the final winning punch. The second key figure, Link's mentality is very good. Raphael said that Link maintained a good mentality in the game, no matter what kind of situation he was in the game scene, no matter what kind of opponent he faced, and often performed exceptionally well in the game. He also believed that Link's mentality during the game was also very good. Whether he encountered offensive training or a big victory over his opponent, he could keep a calm mind, not be impatient, and play steadily. Raphael called this the third person to become a world boxing champion. Raphael believed that this was the most critical factor, extremely strong willpower. He believed that Link's willpower was stronger than that of Peter's, who continued to play despite his damaged chin. For example, in the 4th round of the game against Peters, he attacked more than 100 times in a row, but he could not break Peters' defense, and his physical strength was very consumed. In order to win, he still persisted in swinging his fists, one punch after another, until the opponent's chin was seriously injured. The key point is the 5th cycle. Link used the back throw many times, which caused the biceps of his right arm to be cut, but at the last moment he ignored the pain and threw the fierce back throw fiercely. What kind of boxer is Link? Raphael Varane said at the end of the article, he is definitely a boxer worthy of the expectations and trust of all boxing fans. It is not an exaggeration to praise him with all the flattering words. He will definitely be the biggest surprise in the world boxing in the next 10 years. He can also become a boxing superstar that is more dazzling than Roy Jones Jr. and Mayweather. I bet that Link will become the world boxing champion within 3 years. If he fails, I will run naked on Manhattan Beach. Haha. Reading this, Link couldn't help laughing. Raphael must want to run naked to make a public bet, not to be sure that he can become the world boxing champion within 3 years. This old man has always been out of tune. The newspaper also promoted a photo. It was him facing the audience, with his back to the lights, raising his left arm high. The arm was thick and powerful, and the extracted tendons were deep, like a work of art carved out of marble. What is more eye-catching is his back, which is full of vigor and tenacity, giving people a feeling of strength. This picture has been sent to the Pulitzer Prize Association for the competition. The photographer Simmons hopes to win a news photography award with this photo. Ding-ling-ling. While reading the newspaper, Taylor called. "Hey, Taylor, how was the concert in Vancouver?" "Haha, it was great. Link, you really should come with me," Taylor said happily on the phone. "I will accompany you to the concert. Others will think I'm your bodyguard," Link joked. After the competition, Taylor will take Mr. Swift to Los Angeles for a follow-up visit. According to the agreement, Taylor will stay in Miami for a few days to cultivate feelings with him. It's just that Big Machine Records has arranged some work for her. Taylor is busy with work and has no time to come. She even called to postpone the scheduled time. Link felt helpless. He told Taylor that they were both in the rising stage of their careers and had little time to spend together. It would be better for them to focus on work first and have time to fall in love in the future. They could be friends now. This was not acceptable to everyone, but Taylor didn't agree. She would call him to chat whenever she had time. Link didn't have the heart to hurt her. Every time he answered her call, he would chat with her as usual. Chapter 71 Income. Link, Wilson is here to collect the venue management fee. I asked him if he could give me a discount since he is a celebrity client. He said no. In Baker Diving Shop, Fatty James sent off 2 diving tourists, put 2 glasses of freshly squeezed orange juice on the glass round table, and lay down on the beach chair next to him with a squeak. He took off his hat and combed his sweaty brown curly hair with his hands. It's not his, so why should he give me a discount? Link drank another glass through a straw and remembered that the Olympics were coming soon and he needed to control his weight. At the same time, he spit out the juice with too high sugar content and drank a sip of mineral water. How was the income last month? Haha, it was very good. Last month, except for equipment loss, management fees and other expenses, our net income was $9,524. This is the most we have earned since we opened the shop, and it almost broke 10,000. James waved his arms excitedly, and his mouth was stretched into a banana shape. Link, this is what I think. We have money now. How about buying a few more advanced diving suits and selling the old ones? No one wants to rent the old diving suits. Okay. Link was not in this qualifying match. He earned a bonus of $50,000, a gold-plated trophy. The Florida State Athletic Commission rewarded him with $100,000 for training, and the Amateur Boxing Association also rewarded him with $20,000. He can prepare for the Olympics with peace of mind. During the competition, he also placed 2 bets. The first time he played against Peters, the KO odds were 1:10.2. He bet 2000 characters, and the result was TKO. In the bookmaker, TKO and KO are 2 different results. In the 5th game against Aragon, he bet 2000 abnormalities on himself KO Aragon. The odds were 1:12.5, and he earned 25,000. The total is about 200,000. He didn't care much about the small things Baker's shop did. Lying on James' chair, he flipped through a few pages of Playboy and said, "Link, you won another bonus in this competition. Counting the bonus for the Golden Gloves, it's about 200,000. Do you want to consider buying an apartment? This year, the housing market is in a bubble and the market is very sluggish. Many apartments are being sold at a reduced price. There is also one for sale near my home. It is a 2-bedroom 2-box apartment with a small garden. It is located on 27th Street in West Palm Beach. The location is very good. The price is only $580,000, and it can be paid in installments. If you want to buy it, I will ask my mother to help contact the real estate agent immediately. She is negotiating for a house. Thank your mother for me, but I don't plan to buy a house for the time being. But you are married, and may get married, and have children in the future. Do you want to live in a box with them?" James turned his head and pointed at someone else's shop with a look of disgust. "Yes, I need a house, not now, and not a small apartment. I plan to make more money. When I make 100 million, I will go to the wealthy area of Manhattan to buy a big villa. What do you think? Go to the wealthy area to buy a villa?" James answered repeatedly. The wealthy area of Manhattan Beach is located in the northern part of the Bund. The residents there are either rich or noble, including shareholders of Fortune 500 companies, CEOs of listed companies, senior US government officials, big stars, etc. It is said that the minimum price of a villa there is 5 or 6 million, which ordinary people can't afford at all. He pointed at Link's arm wrapped in gauze. "You were injured in just one boxing match. What if you get a more serious injury next time? In my opinion, you should buy an apartment while you have money. With an apartment, you have a place to live, even if you can't box, right?" James worried. "Besides, this is what Catherine meant. Your mother called my mother and told her about this. The day you were competing with Aragon, Catherine was there. Did you see her?" "I have seen her." Link nodded. As for Link Baker's mother, Miss Kayleen Baker, Sather had only met her once. That was when Link was stabbed and lying in the hospital. Kayleen came once and left a debt. In her memory, Link Baker and Kayleen were not close. The root of this matter was Link Baker's father, Bob Baker. In the 1980s, Bob Baker followed Link's grandfather to fish in the Gulf of Mexico, but did not make much money. In the 1970s and 1980s, due to the short circuit of the fault, Baker gradually became a transit point for illegal drugs to enter the United States. Every year, trillions of illegal drugs are transferred from Miami to various parts of North America. There are also many dealers engaged in illegal drug transactions here. Bob Baker saw that others made a fortune by strictly prohibiting drugs, so he decided to stop fishing. He went to Colombia to buy cheap illegal drugs and shipped them back to the United States to sell them at high prices. In those years, the D cracked down on illegal drugs, and the prices of North American commodities continued to rise. Bob made millions of black money in just a few years. At that time, Bob Baker met Catherine Baker in the fashion industry at a dance. Catherine was the descendant of Italian immigrants. She was tall and outstanding in appearance. Her ambition was to be an actor. Under Baker's money offensive, she married Bob, who was 10 years older than her, and soon Link Baker was born. Bob was not a well-behaved man. After getting married, he still spent money on wine and women outside, and often hired bar thugs. Catherine and Link were both victims. When Link was 4 years old, the relationship between the two broke down. Catherine asked for a divorce and wanted to take Link to live in another place, but Bob disagreed and pulled out a gun to threaten her. Catherine didn't dare to mention it again. She divorced and left the Baker family with her luggage. She rarely met Link in the following years, until 5 years ago, the Drug Enforcement Administration cracked down on it. Bob Baker didn't give up and wanted to continue smuggling to make money. Soon he died in a street conflict. It was said that the spoils were not evenly divided. After Bob Baker's death, most of his property was seized or divided up by his partners. A part of it was squandered by Link in 2 or 3 years. In the meantime, Catherine came back once and said she wanted to take Link to study in New York, but Link refused. Link grew up with Bob Baker and had a cold relationship with Catherine, and they had no contact. Link almost forgot that he had a nominal mother. This time in Havana, Link was surprised to see Catherine there, and what was even more surprising was that Selena Gomez was actually his cousin. Selena is 16 years old this year. She was born as a child star. She filmed a TV series at the age of 7. In 2004, she was signed to Disney and became an artist. Last year, she starred in Disney's magical comedy Wizards of Young Age and became a young actor. Catherine Baker is now Selena's executive agent, playing the roles of Mrs. Andrea and Ms. Irene. He and Catherine met after the last game. Selena robbed most of the seafood. Then he had something to do, and Catherine also had work to do. The two sides left each other's phone numbers and parted. He also counted as an acquaintance with blood relationship. Catherine's suggestions can be listened to or not. Hey, Link, James, do you want to play volleyball? Michael and Daniel, wearing t-shirts and beach pants, holding a yellow volleyball, waved on the beach in the distance, and there were 5 young girls in cool clothes standing beside them. No, I'm recovering from my injury. Link raised his arm wrapped in gauze and responded. That's too much. Michael smiled and squinted his eyes. Go if you want to, you don't have to chat with me here. Link noticed that James' eyes were constantly looking to the side. James shook his head, squinted the curtains, took off his hat, shook his fat body, and ran to the beach not far away to play volleyball with a few people. At first they had a good time, but later they saw that the fat guy was more fun, and several girls kept dunking the volleyball at James. Link wanted to intervene, but he saw James grinning, and his face flushed with joy. Hey, Link, how are you feeling today? Dr. Holt got out of the car carrying a medicine box. Not bad, Gregory. Link got up and took Dr. Holt into the store to change the medicine. Chapter 72, Becoming Famous. Dr. Holt was the doctor that Coach West found for him. He was also a surgeon employed by the gym all year round. He was in his 50s and graduated from the School of Medicine of the University of Miami. He was good at treating trauma. However, he had no room to play with Link because he found out the limit of his self-healing ability after he came here. Last time he was stabbed from the back, his injury recovered in just half a month. Ordinary injuries would take a few days or even hours. The strain on his right arm was also a minor problem. It would basically recover completely in less than 5 days. In fact, he had already started to resume physical training yesterday. There were only 38 days left before the opening of the Olympics. At the Olympics, he would face the challenge of the top 3 boxers in the 5 continents. Those people were as strong as Aragon, and some were even stronger than Aragon. If he met an opponent of Aragon's strength again, he didn't think he could successfully KO them. Even if it was Rock Peters, he didn't have 100% control to TKO the opponent's mold within 4 circles. He had to persevere and fight in these 38 days to improve his strength by a small level. Haha, Link has recovered well. It seems that the medicine I prepared is very effective. You didn't want to use it last time. Dr. Holt pulled his right arm to try it out and found that his arm had recovered to normal after stretching and exerting force. He praised the parts that satisfied him. Yes, Gregory, your ointment is not bad. Link nodded. Dr. Holt had a secret green plant medicine in his hand. It was said that he exchanged the secret recipe from a Middle Eastern person. It was very effective in treating injuries from bruises and sprains, reducing swelling and relieving pain. West and others also recommended it to him. After Link was injured, he also used it 3 times. It was first hot and then cool on the arm. The effect was very good. However, when Link looked at those ointments, he found that they were very similar to drugs such as bad eye ointment, safflower oil and Yunnan Bay IAO, but the color and taste were different. Since this was Holt's secret formula, Link couldn't ask what his raw materials were. With Holt's plaster and his strong self-healing ability, the strain on his arm will be completely healed in just 4 or 5 days. Seeing that he recovered so quickly, Dr. Holt thought it was all due to the plaster. Link, remember to find me next time you get hurt. I dare say that no one in Miami is better at treating injuries than me, Dr. Holt said confidently. With a slight smile, he carried the medicine box and sent Dr. Holt to the car and left. In the afternoon, the sun on the beach was extremely bright. The white sand looked like a salt field under the sun, making it difficult to open your eyes. The seawater near the coast turned from dark blue to light green under the direct sunlight, and the fresh water was visible to the bottom. The number of tourists on the beach gradually increased. Baker's shop, Daniel's hot dog shop, Michael's surfboard shop, Miss Lina's ice cream shop, and other shops also came to the peak of daily customer flow. While Link was lying on the puller for training, he heard James land 5 passengers. "Hey, Link." James pushed open the door, poked his big head inside, blinked his eyes and said, "There are customers who want to learn diving. Do you want to take the order?" "Sure, I'll be out right away." Link put down the barbell and flipped it off the shelf. Although it's not very profitable to be a diving trainer, diving is also an excellent way to exercise. Diving can improve cardiopulmonary capacity and reduce body fat. When swimming in deep water, you need to use the whole body's large and small sports groups to exercise. It can also enhance the body's flexibility, balance, and willpower, etc. It is very helpful to improve physical fitness. When Link went out to greet the 6 guests outside, 2 girls looked at him and shouted loudly, saying excitedly that they had watched his boxing match and were his boxing fans. They liked his match very much and wanted to take a photo with him. Link did not refuse them and took a few photos with the 6 people. The last time he and Aragon's match was broadcast by HBO on the 3rd day after the promotion match, and the video of his match against Shocking Peters was also broadcast. It is said that the ratings exceeded 15 million users. With these 2 matches, Link also became famous in the North American boxing world and gained many fans. He was often recognized in the store, and it was not the first time that he was asked to take a photo. "Link, you are a celebrity now. When the news of your stay here spreads, your boxing fans will definitely come to you to learn diving. Should we raise the price?" James came over and asked in a low voice. "In the future, when I'm here, I will bring a group of guests every day, and those who have not yet taken their turn will line up in the back. Well, since you are here, the business in the store will definitely not be bad in the future, and we will definitely make a lot of money," James said happily. Link took several tourists to swim around the coral reefs on the seabed and told them some diving methods and precautions. Diving underwater is not as difficult as you can imagine. As long as you can break through the use of diving equipment, pay attention to the time, depth and physical distribution of diving, and don't interrupt the connection with your companions, the rest is easier than swimming. When he drove the speedboat back to the dock, James suddenly came up and told him with a weird look on his face that there was a woman waiting for him in the store, saying that she had something to do with him. "What woman?" Link was packing up his diving bag and equipping himself with missiles. "She's about 40 years old. The skirt she's wearing is Prada, and the small round bag in her hand is Guxy. Her car, an apple-colored Semerity sedan, is parked on the road. She's obviously a rich woman. It's not a gift for you, rich woman." James squinted his eyes, his round face full of curiosity. Link shook his head. He didn't remember knowing such a woman. He carried the bag back to Baker's shop. Under the awning in front of the door sat a woman with delicate makeup. She was about the same age and dressed like the fat man, but this woman had short hair that reached her ears. Her facial lines were slightly tough and neutral, and her temperament was capable and sharp. She was by no means a simple woman. When he appeared at the door, the woman also looked over. Her eyes were sharp and cold, as if she could see through people. However, there was a deep resentment hidden in her expression that made Link a little confused. James, who had followed Link before, also noticed the woman's expression. Her small eyes slid back and forth in her eyelids, looking at the woman for a while, and then looking at Link. He felt that Link and this rich woman might really have something going on. "Hello, Mr. Link Baker. I'm Nora Doover, and Frank Doover is my husband." The woman stood up and stretched out her hand. "Nora Doover." Link shook hands with the other party, wondering what the helmsman of this major event company was doing in the small store. Chapter 73 Nora. Nora Doover quietly looked at Link Baker sitting on the opposite chair. Although she had watched several of Link's boxing matches on TV and knew everything about Link from Franco, she was still a little surprised when she saw Link in person. When Link was dressed, he looked polite and gentlemanly, and his temperament was also gentle, not at all as fierce and violent as he was on the boxing ring. It felt like there were two people on and off the stage, like a layout, a violent younger brother and a gentle older brother. Is this the reason why Franco is so optimistic about Link? But if it was just that, it would not be enough, because Franco was too optimistic about Link, as if he was fascinated by him. In order to sign Link, Franco built another big contract, with a higher split of the competition income than other companies, and also helped with 20% of the shares of Dynasty Promotion. Although the registered capital of Dynasty Promotion Company is only 30 million, and 20% of the shares are only 6 million, in the professional boxing industry, money alone has no chance of success. Here, more attention is paid to human resources, promotion channels, etc. At present, there are 3 people with the greatest influence in the boxing industry: Don King, Lau Doover, and Bob Arum, who control the most resources in the boxing world. Franco is the eldest son of the old Doover and the heir to the Doover family business. When running Dynasty Promotions, he is also eligible to use those resources. Counting the value of these resources, the 20% share interface of Dynasty is a small number. In addition, in order to impress Link, Franco was ready to move Dynasty Promotions to Miami before the two of them had officially signed the contract, completely ignoring his wife, daughter, and old father who were still in New York. It seems that in his heart, Link is more important than his family. Nora felt resentful when she thought of this matter. In order to end the AIDS farce, she flew here first and decided to talk to Link in person and try to control this dangerous person in her hands. Mrs. Doover, please have some tea. Link put down a cup of flower tea and sat opposite Nora Doover. Call me Nora, Link, we are also welfare acquaintances. Okay, Nora. Link chuckled. Nora Doover glanced at Link and found that after this guy was equipped with clothes, he looked really outstanding and had the temperament of a star. If he was packaged well, he might be able to develop in Hollywood like Dwayne Johnson in the future. Thinking of this, Nora Doover had a lot of thoughts about this trip. Link, when you were competing in Orlando last month, I was there. I thought you had great potential at the time and suggested that Franco sign you. Franco listened to my advice and came to you after the game. Link listened to Nora's words and didn't quite understand what she meant. The couple were the presidents of a promotion company, so he didn't quite understand why Nora was talking to him in her capacity as Franco's wife or in her capacity as the president of a major event promotion company. Nora Doover seemed to see his doubts and smiled. Link, I wanted to sign you a long time ago, but something happened in the company. Franco left the main event company with a group of people and reviewed the Dynasty Promotion Company. Zhao's contact was also delayed by this matter. I came to see you today to discuss cooperation with you on behalf of the main event company. If you are willing to come to the main event promotion company, we are willing to cooperate with you with the greatest sincerity. Don't you know if you are interested in talking? The wife dug the husband's corner behind her husband's back. Link thought this was interesting. Since the other party was negotiating with him on behalf of the main event, Link didn't mind telling the other party. After all, the main event was the 3 most powerful promotion companies in the boxing promotion industry. If the conditions were right, cooperating with them would definitely be better than cooperating with the Dynasty Promotion, which had not yet developed. When it comes to making money, he doesn't value friendship, but only sincerity. Nora, you should also know the conditions that other companies have given me. I wonder how big a contract the main event can give me. It's definitely not worse than this. Nora Doover smiled and handed a document to Link. Hey, James, who is that woman driving a Maserati? Next door, Daniel from the hot dog shop leaned on the window with a manuscript in his hand. Cotton ice cream, shouted to James who had just walked out. Why are you eating ice cream all over the world? James turned back and glanced at the store quickly and said softly while drying his diving suit, it's Ms. Nora Doover, Franco's wife. Franco's wife. She's looking for Link. Surfboard shop. Hey, she looks rich, like a rich woman. Michael squinted and grinned. What do you mean? Daniel widened his eyes and looked at Link's Pontiac GTO parked outside the store in surprise. Hey, don't think about it, you two. Link is not that kind of person. James shook his fat face and said, haha, we were just kidding. Wait, look. Isn't that Franco? Michael pointed to the Seaside Avenue. A black Mercedes-Benz S350 was parked on the sandbar. Franco Duva hurriedly ran to the car below. His hair was messy and his face was black and smelly. Michael and Daniel looked at each other and exclaimed, with the fire of gossip in their eyes burning. This plot looked a bit like the 8 o'clock CSI crime scene. James quickly informed Link, Franco is here. Be careful, he has a gun on him. In the movie, the adulterer was arrested with a gun. Michael yelled at James. When James heard you say there was a gun, he hurriedly ran to the store. After running, he stopped and said, I just said that they were just talking about work and didn't do anything else. Why should we be careful? But look at Franco's appearance. If Link and Nora didn't do anything else, why would he be so hurried? Michael pointed at Franco who was running towards him. Seeing James' anxious expression and Franco's angry face, he also had some doubts in his heart. Weren't Link and Nora talking about work in the house? But he just saw them talking about work. Hey, James, is Nora here? Isn't Link here too? Franco hurried over and asked James. James nodded, wiped the hot sweat on his face, and stuttered, Franco, don't get me wrong, they are just talking about work in the house. I was here just now and just came out. They definitely didn't do anything else. I promise God. Talking about work. Franco's face became worse, and he grabbed James tightly and said, did they talk about contracts, folders, etc.? Yes, they are looking at documents. James nodded quickly. Oh no. Franco slapped his forehead, left James, and strode into the store. When he entered the door, he was almost hit by the sand barrier at the door. What's going on? Why am I a little confused? Daniel licked the ice cream and said while looking at Baker's store. It may be a financial dispute. In the movies, such cases are very troublesome and sometimes even cost lives. Link is in trouble, Michael said in a heavy tone. Shaking James answered, focusing, and walked into the store cautiously. Chapter 74 Contractors. Franco, why are you here? When Franco walked into the small living room, Link and Nora Duva were drinking tea and chatting. The folder he had just read was on the table. When Franco saw the folder, his face suddenly changed, and he thought to himself that something was wrong. Today, he heard from his assistant that Nora came from New York. When he returned home in the afternoon, he only saw Nora's luggage, but not Nora. He didn't get through on the phone. He asked Nora's assistant, and the assistant was evasive and said that she was walking and visiting friends. He knew it was a lie the first day. Nora's social circle in New York had no friends in Miami. He felt very bad at the time, and it seemed that Nora was indeed with Link. Hi, Link. Franco forced a smile, greeted Link, and walked out with Nora, almost bumping into James who was walking in the opposite direction. James was startled and quickly stepped aside to make way for the couple. Looking at the backs of the couple, James found that what happened today seemed to be beyond his imagination. Link, what are they doing? James looked at Link and asked. Maybe they are showing off their affection. Link smiled softly and looked at the contract on the table again. Nora, I'm telling you, don't steal my girlfriend, or I'll be really angry with you. Why are you still like this? Franco said to Nora outside the baker's shop, pulling her out of the door. Nora fixed her hair and saw that her husband was wearing a wrinkled shirt and sandy leather sandals. He looked like a homeless man who picked up garbage on the beach not far away. His image in New York last year was very different. If he was seen by old Duval, he might be kicked out of the house. Why do you go out dressed like this? Are you worried that you have been dressed like this for a long time? Nora, don't change the subject. We are talking about work. You promised me not to interfere in Link's affairs, but you didn't do what you said. Franco said with a stern face and dissatisfaction. Pulled a chair and sat down and said, Franco, have you signed a contract with Link? No, but if you haven't signed, he won't be considered a boxer promoted by Dynasty. After Link won the American Qualifying Championship, many companies contacted him and wanted to sign him. I'm the president of the main event company. I came to talk to him. Is there any problem? Nora said calmly in a calm tone. Franco covered his forehead and thought about it. It seemed that there was no problem. Nora is the president of the event and is also responsible for the signing of boxes. She came to Link to sign a contract, but she didn't hope. On the contrary, she suddenly ran over and interrupted their conversation. Some of her eyes were too involved. How did you talk with Link? Not bad. Nora saw her husband's face change and smiled again, but Link didn't agree to hire a contractor. Really? Yes, Link wants more than 70% of the games to relax. This requirement is too high, and we can't meet it. Nora is very tall. Franco laughed and said to Nora affectionately, honey, you should read the recent news to see what they say about Link. They say he is the best boxer and the biggest surprise in the boxing world in the next 10 years. He may also become a boxing superstar like Roy Jones Jr. and Mayweather. In my opinion, he is fully qualified to get more than 70% of the competition income like Mayweather and others. Nora Duva did not refute his words, because after the contact just now, she suddenly found that Link's contract was indeed worth the price. First of all, Link is very good at fighting. His amateur competition results are better than those of Tyson, Mayweather, Roy Jones Jr., and he has the potential to be a boxing superstar. Second, Link is famous and has a good foundation. In the boxing circle, few people can be like Link. Before entering the professional boxing arena, or even participating in boxing, he can already match the popularity of second and third tier American actors, and even more famous than many boxing champions. Such a person will achieve twice the result with half the effort in the future promotion and publicity, and can save the company a lot of money. Third, Link is a smart and rational person. Most boxers are drawn out, simple-minded strong men. Many of them have great potential and are good at boxing, such as Guy Babuchi, Oliver McCall, and others who have won the championship. They all have good prospects, but they ended their careers early because of fighting, crime, and drug abuse. Link has clear goals and what he wants. Such people are prone to go the wrong way, have longer careers, and are also good partners. Because of these points, after meeting Link, Nora really wanted to sign Link and wanted to call old Duva to explain the situation, but it was a pity that Franco came too early and interrupted her. Nora shook her head and occasionally felt that, although Franco was not good at doing business, he had a good eye for people. This Link is very likely to be a seedling of a boxing superstar. In fact, it is destined to be a couple's plan, and she does not intend to continue to interfere with Franco in this matter. Link, you should continue to talk. The main event will be withdrawn, but you should not forget the main event. I hope we will have the opportunity to cooperate in the future, Nora said with her hand. Okay. Link shook hands with Nora. After seeing off his wife Nora, Franco handed a contract to Link, which was a new contract. After returning from Havana, Franco ran to find Link's contractor, hoping to get some of this trump card on the invoice as soon as possible, but Link was not satisfied with the terms in the contract and put forward several opinions, mainly on the part of informal income. The original draft contract stated that before Link became the world boxing champion, he and the company had a 5:5 ratio. After getting the world boxing champion, he and the company had a 6:4 ratio. If he could keep the championship for more than 5 years, the ratio would be 7:3, and for more than 10 years, the ratio would be 8:2. The modification suggestion proposed by Link was that, before getting the World Boxing Champion gold belt, the competition income would be 5:5. After getting the WBA, WBC, IBF, WBO, the competition income would be 6:4. Get more than 3. Rescue 7:3. After getting 2 heavyweight gold belts, rescue 8:2. After getting 5 heavyweight gold belts, income rescue 9:1. When Franco saw those new terms, he was stunned. It's not that Link's conditions are too much, but he was stunned by Link's ambition. At first on the train, he heard Link say that he wanted to organize 5 heavyweights and the 4 major gold protagonists to become a better boxer than Holyfield. He thought Link was talking big at the time, to increase his physical value in the negotiation, but now Link openly wrote this clause into the contract, and when it formed a condition for an income rescue clause, it showed that Link's goal was indeed to dominate 5 heavyweights. Franco had to admit that Link's goal was too cool. Before entering the boxing arena, the real hand in the 3rd round thought that it would be great to get a gold belt. Link breathed to carry 5 levels, the 4 major organizations gold. If he succeeds in this, what will the world boxing world look like in the future? Will boxers from all over the world come to challenge Link alone? If this can be done, Link's income from a match will definitely exceed 1. After discussing it in a meeting at the company, Franco found that such a clause is not bad. If Link is able to obtain 2 or 3 gold badges, or become a champion in multiple levels, then Link's fame will not be inferior to Mayweather, and he deserves such a high income. Compared with the original, the newly revised contract is only fixed in time. It used to be 5 to 30 years, but now it is only calculated according to the number and level of gold collars. This is also beneficial to the development of the company. Franco came here today not only to find Nora, but also to finalize the contract with Link and settle the matter thoroughly, so as not to worry about Link being signed by others all day long. Link, what do you think? No problem. Link nodded. The new contract was revised according to his own opinions, and there was no problem with other terms. Chapter 75 Multimillionaire. Not long after finalizing the contract with Franco, Link received another call from Greg Cohen of Strict Promotions. Hi, Link, are you busy? How about we talk about the contract? Greg Cohen greeted him in a familiar tone. Mr. Cohen, what to talk about? Link asked, putting down the dumbbell. I heard that you are going to contract with Dynasty Promotions? Greg Cohen snorted disdainfully. Link, as a veteran boxing promoter, I can happily tell you that this is a very bad decision. Everyone knows that boxing promotion companies operate in a similar way to Hollywood's performing arts companies. The stronger the company, the stronger its ability to create stars. Small companies have weak promotion capabilities. They simply cannot afford the pre-promotion activities for an event, and they have no way to take you to a higher event platform. Just like the 5 major companies in Hollywood, people want to become contracted artists of CAA, WMA, and ICM. If you want to become a boxing champion like Mayweather and De La Hoya and make a lot of the same money, it's best to choose to cooperate with a strong promotion company, such as Strict Promotions, Don King Promotions, Main Events, and Arena Room. They have launched almost all the boxing champions and profitable boxers. Link, you are a smart man. I think you should know about this. Yes, me. Link shrugged and said. Then why did you decide on the contractor so hastily? Link, I'm very optimistic about you. This is true. Even if you can't hire a contractor, I want to stand on the table of friends and predecessors and advise you not to rush the contractor. Wait until the Olympics are over. If you can win a medal in the Olympics, I think there will be many companies willing to come up with big contracts to cooperate with you. The same is true for Strict Promotion. During this period, I have been discussing with Mr. Aram to fight for a bigger contract for you, a higher split of the competition income, maybe up to 50%. This is before you become the world boxing champion. In the future, you may be able to get a higher break, and 70% is not a problem. It's a pity to hear that you are going to sign a contract with a small promotion company. Link, I advise you to think about it again. Greg Cohen said earnestly on the phone. Link shook and felt that this guy was here to mess up. After the qualifying rounds, many promoters from promotion companies came to him, including the top promoters, but not Greg Cohen. They borrowed from the fact that, although the contract was larger than after the Golden Glove collection, it was still lower than their expectations, and they were very stingy in the interruption of competition income. Now that he was about to sign a contract with Dynasty Promotions, Greg Cohen suddenly called to persuade him, and he just made empty promises and disappeared. Link concluded that the other party just wanted to make trouble. Mr. Cohen, thank you for your advice, but I still decided to sign with Dynasty Promotions. Why? Probably because Franco is more sincere. Link thought of an excuse and said, Humph, Link, I bet you will decide on this replacement in the future. Professional boxing is expected to be more complicated than you think. You and Franco will definitely not be able to handle such a solution. But the future will be in the future. Link hung up the phone decisively. After the contract was finalized, Dynasty Promotions held a large signing ceremony at the Palm Beach Hilton Hotel, inviting local celebrities to the scene, including members of the State Sports Commission, senior executives of the Boxing Association, senior executives of media advertising companies, and hundreds of media reporters to participate in the epidemic prevention activities. Link also dressed up for the first time, got a delicate hairstyle, and came to the venue of the Hilton Hotel. Hundreds of people came to the scene. Except for Coach West, Manager Robinson, Rafael Varane and others. The others were all strangers. Link saw a few people on the field, and went over to say hello. Link, you came at the right time. Let me introduce you. Rafael took him, and introduced several middle-aged and elderly men around him. Several of them were senior executives of the local media and publishing industry in Florida, including the CEO of Florida Business Television, the Southern Distribution Director of Ring Magazine, the News Director of Florida New Herald, the General Manager of McClatchy Publishing Company, and Anderson Gyllenhaal, the Executive Editor of Miami Herald. According to Raphael, the nephew of this executive editor is Hollywood star Jake Gyllenhaal. Link greeted them in a polite and neither humble nor arrogant manner. For these senior executives in the media and publishing industry, there is actually no need to be too supportive. They can only play a role in their own development. If they make achievements in the boxing arena, the media will cheer loudly and support them. But if they lose the game and there is a scandal, the media will no longer worry about stepping on them or spitting dirty water. The role of the media is somewhat equivalent to that of a small performing arts company that considers weddings and funerals. No matter whether public figures have good or bad things, they have the opportunity to join in the fun and earn a wave of circulation. If they say good things about bad things and bad things about others' good things, it is also simple. They need to pay enough publicity fees. After all, this is a world, and everything is decided by capital. Link. You once publicly told the media that, as long as Roy Jones Jr., Bernard Hopkins, Chris Bird and others dare to challenge you, you can defeat them within 3 rounds. Are you kidding? Or do you really have the confidence to do it? Editor-in-Chief Anderson Gyllenhaal said, while holding up a celebration cup. Link smiled and said, Mr. Gyllenhaal, I never brag. As long as they dare to challenge me, I will definitely not avoid the fight and I can defeat them. If they don't challenge me, I will challenge them when I switch to professional boxing in the future. After all, there are fewer and fewer people who can fight in the current professional boxing world. It sounds great, Link. When are you going to play professional games? We are all looking forward to seeing your performance. Anderson Gyllenhaal raised his champagne glass and looked at them. Everyone nodded repeatedly. If Link is really that good at fighting, everyone would not mind going to show their support. Link smiled and was about to speak when he saw Franco and Nora walking side by side through the crowd. After Nora came to Miami, Franco's outfit became neat and elegant again. He wore a black twill suit and a red tie, which matched Nora's red dress very well. Link looked at the corresponding person and said, Look, the boss lady is here. Gentlemen, when I can play professional matches depends on her arrangement. Haha, Link, we are partners. In addition, I will serve you in the future. You are my boss. Franco patted his shoulder and said to everyone with a smile, as for Link's professional matches, we will start to arrange them after signing the contract. The time should be before Christmas. The opponent should be at least an intercontinental champion level boxer. When the time comes, please go and support us, gentlemen. Haha, of course. Everyone smiled and responded. The signing ceremony began. Witnessed by celebrities, lawyers, and media reporters, Link and Franco signed a boxing match promotion contract and became the contracted boxers and second largest shareholders of Dynasty Promotion Company, with more than 8 million yuan in their hands. After signing the contract, many newspapers published news about him being involved in organized crime, saying that his father was a smuggler and gangster, that he had also participated in smuggling and drug trafficking, and had been in jail twice, and that he was not a good person. They also said that he liked to KO his opponents in the boxing ring, and that he might have been infected with the habit of debt on the streets. However, these negative news did not last long. A character report in the American Express caused a greater sensation in North America. Link Baker, a Grey Girl-style champion, the American dream of the new era. In this issue of the new character report, the American Express used more than 5,000 words to introduce his life experience in detail, saying that he was born in Miami Beach, his ancestors were fishermen for 2 generations, his mother left home very early, his father died early, and he was helpless. When he was a child, he was influenced by the surrounding environment and became a bad boy. He was imprisoned twice and was almost killed on the street, etc. He did not avoid covering up the bad things he had done in the past. But after he came into contact with boxing 3 years ago, he began to reform himself and practice boxing. Starting from the Golden Gloves competition, he became the champion of the American qualifying competition step by step. Recently, he has promoted contractors with Dynasty Company, with contractors bonuses of tens of millions, and will soon represent the US super middleweight boxing team in the Olympics. The American Express said that because of boxing, he has changed from a bad boy with a bad record to a multi-millionaire at the age of 20. His life experience is more inspiring than that of boxing champions such as Ali, Tyson, and James J. Braddock. He is called a new idol of the grassroots and a representative of the American dream. This article was reprinted by major newspapers and magazines such as Weekly People, Ring, and Chicago Tribune in the early stage, causing quite a stir in North America. Link's reputation is not only not as evil as before because of the evil news, but has become more serious and famous. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.